Okay, we are live and just waiting on order. I don't know what's going on with my screen here. Okay, now it's... Hello, Albert. Thank you for kicking us off in the chat room. Use the pop-out chat today so I don't miss anyone. Because last week...
Does that mean I can see it too?
Oh, I was reading my notes to try and keep on topic, and of course, you know, trying to go from notes to chat. And then every time I'd look at the chat, I kept seeing them talking with each other, you know, like, hello, how are you, and stuff like that. So I thought, well, they're having their own little conversation. So, and I missed it. Hi, Maurice. Thank you for joining. I thought we would talk about is mortality, because eventually we've all got to face it. And I don't know whether you can hear in the music in the background. I thought I'd set the theme by playing my favourite movie of all time, Somewhere in Time, with Christopher Reeves and Jane Seymour. So if you haven't seen it, oh my God. And that's playing through... Hi, Marley. Marley Paranormal's on. This, I don't know whether you can see it. It's a Google thing, a Google Mini. Yeah.
Okay.
Really good. And you can ask it questions too. So every now and then I might even ask it a question.
Is that one of those
we can ask you questions about... Yeah, we'll bring up questions on the topic of the afterlife and everything, see what this... so I thought I thought we'd have that in the background. Hi, Crimson Angel, Paranormal. Those that are popping in now, thank you so much for joining the chat room. I'm going to keep that chat open so I can have a look at that, because last week, as I was mentioning earlier, I had a situation where I had trying to keep on topic, keep organised, because everything's about time management with me. Good morning, Ray, Medea, Jeff, Marley Paranormal. Okay. So in regards of that, I want to make sure I don't miss anyone's questions. Now, I'll just say, if anyone does ask a question, because every now and then when you look at chat, all you see is people saying hello to each other. That's lovely. If someone asks a question, courtesy of allowing me to get to that question before you go posting other things, because otherwise what happens is it gets lost in transit, and then I go to scroll up and I can't find it. So keep that in mind. That would be great, and that will help everyone be happy, because we want to be happy at this time of year. And I recently had a birthday, so I'm yes, and I thought I'd share with you. I started a new and I thought I'd share it. It's called Silica, and it's supposed to be good for hair, nails, skin, and everything. I mean, you know, once you start sort of getting to 60, you've got to watch all this, you know. So I'm having thy magnesium tablets, thy magnesium. So, yeah, quite a few things in the mix there for this old girl. And my favourite night serum, which I will share with the ladies, is recently I've started using, probably for the last 2 months, the Kimmie the black tea, and it's really, really, really good. I don't know whether it's coming through back the front or what, but I've noticed a really good improvement in my skin. Thank you for my happy birthdays. So Crimson Angel says, about me, you, Ed, doing a stream. Yeah, that won't be. Okay, so this is what I mean about the chat. Thank you for the happy birthday, for joining. So tonight's topic is going to be on mortality. only not because of the fact that I had a birthday. So I just want to make that clear. It's pretty much a close to home topic to everybody. And thank you, Medea. It is a very close to home topic. We've all got to go through it. We all experience it, and we deal with things really differently. You know, some people, they don't even seem to be affected when someone passes. You've probably met those kind where it's like, oh, they're strangely calm under the circumstances, and you think, oh, they're going to snap or they're going to have a meltdown, but they then deal with it. And to do with, you know, the fact that either their upbringing or their spirituality or just, you know, their own experience that might not have shared with others. So what are your thoughts on mortality?
No, nothing lasts forever, does it? I mean, nothing. I mean, cars, houses, items, us. It is the entrepreneurial fact that everything ages, everything eventually withers away, etc., etc. It's just how it is. It is sands of time and how it all moves. Everything. I mean, like maintenance is the main thing. You can make it last forever, so you can sit there with your car and change your service every day. You yourself are taking magnesium tablets and whatnot. I doing the opposite. I need to be destroying myself as quickly as I can with cigarettes and Red Bull. But yeah, nothing lasts forever. And the only thing is, we wonder if when you know, entities die and you, that spark of light, like, how to describe this? If I crash my car, I can rebuild my car, or I can get another car to replace it, but you can't replace a person or an animal or a living thing. What is that spark of life? Now, we can donate organs, we can clone things even, but it's still not the same person. Even if I had a clone of me sitting next to me now, it's not me. Nurture, nature, whatever. The spark of life goes, and allegedly it is meant to move on to a spirit realm, a consciousness where it's there, and sometimes they come back, they talk through our little spirit box, or we can see them if you're gifted like you are, or whatever. But do they even live forever? Because why haven't we had any? I suppose the English language changes very quickly. If you speak to someone who's like 200 years ago, their language is going to be very different to now. But what I'm trying to say is, how come we don't see ghost dinosaurs? How come we don't see ghosts cavemen or things like that? So when that eventually fades, where does that go? All right, so maybe they go to heaven, or they cross, yeah, or whatever. So what happens when you cross? How long do they stay there? What happens? Do they just fade into oblivion, but they are happy and peaceful? Or is there reincarnation going on? Do they get another chance again and go into another body that lasts for a period of time? There's this thing on Area 51 where allegedly they captured an alien. Don't know if this is true or not. Viewed as alien. This alien was in life support mode in terms of, obviously, our atmosphere is very different to his. And I said, you don't seem very worried or scared that you're probably going to die here, because obviously, you know, our environment isn't set for yours. And he said, or he put it, the alien was not scared at all, because when he dies, or if he dies, all that's going to happen is he's going to go to another vessel. His body is a vessel. He'll just go to another one, and so the cycle will begin. You know, so whatever. So yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it, and a hard one to comprehend. But we try and make things last as long as possible. Maybe you got that classic car out there, you're continually servicing, waxing it, and, you know, keeping it forever. Or, you know, if you're a health fanatic like, say, my dad, or even yourself, tablets, and, you know, keeping your skin, doing all these rituals to try and last as long and looking as good as possible as well. Yeah, some people are just freaking. Yeah, preservation. There's the word, preservation. And there's other people who are on a complete self-destruction path. Sometimes people wing it. They're self-destructing. They still look freaking beautiful at the end of it. I don't know how they do that, but that happens sometimes too. But nothing lasts forever. And I'm worried about, well, not worried, but I don't think I want to live forever, because I had some, this is a bit of a change of topic a little bit. I had some Jehovah's Witnesses knock on my door a little while back, and I rolled my eyes, but entertained them for a bit. They said, don't you want to live forever on this earth? Live forever, be saved, live forever. All right, so what happens when I live forever? Sorry? Well, if you live forever, what it'll be a utopia, a Garden of Eden. You will have lots of trees and beautiful forestries and all the rest of it. I said, lady, I don't want to sound odd or anything, But I think after 1,000 years, we'll say maybe 2,000 years, however many thousands of years because it's forever, remember, I'm going to be bored
Mm-hmm.
as shit. I want to move on. I don't want to live forever. I do not want to live forever. I want to live a long age. I want to live 100, 200, 300, whatever. But I don't want to live forever. Oh, God, that'd be like hell. You ever heard of Chakan the Forever Man? Oh, dear. Poor guy can't die, forever. And forever is hell. We all move on eventually. And then the
Well,
next thing
the
connected to this is
amazing,
loss. Loss, when you lose someone you
the
love.
amazing thing is, yes, the amazing thing is though, we physically don't live forever. That's a given. But we do live forever. Regardless of your religion, or even if you don't have a religion, you're still going to be around in some form. And
Well, energy
the
can't
thing
be
is,
energy can only change thing. Like if you again go back to the car bloody metaphor. When you hit the brakes, that turns kinetic energy into freaking heat. I don't know where the heat goes to, but that's another energy. Energy just changes form. It doesn't actually disappear, does it? Apparently. So,
Crimson Angel Paranormal says, everything you see, hear, feel, it's all just temporary. And yes and no. Again, it is a situation of us being present for a reason. And that is the biggest question, is why are we here? What is our purpose? What is it we're supposed to learn?
I'm going to give you a good analogy. If you ever feel down and you're like, oh, my life's going wrong and all the rest of it, okay? Just remember this, okay? Speaking of purposes and how you got here, when you were a single cell sperm, okay, so you're one single cell, millions and millions were released, obviously, to go to the egg. Now, when you're down, you think, I haven't achieved anything. My life's not going anywhere. Oh, no. You achieved everything just to be here, because out of millions and millions of sperm, and but however distance you've got to travel, because microscopic, the distance is ginormous. I think they did do a show on Channel 4 ages ago where they had humans dressed up as sperm having to run the distance that a sperm has to travel, and it was like ridiculous, like one end of the country to the other sort of thing, nearly. But you beat every other million other people to get to that egg, and then you had to form, and then you had to make it through. But you beat everything just to be here in the first place. So don't ever think you haven't achieved anything.
There was a will. That's right. There's a will. There's a will to be living. And this is, I just happened to glance over, and Crimson Angel wrote, many thousands of years ago, people used to live up to 300 years or so. That actually has been debunked. Scientifically, they found that the calendar years were very different back in those days. So, of course, going on a calendar time, that would have made, probably me nearly 200 years. But with the types of foods and everything too, that accounts for a lot of, the way people live and so on.
The longest we've ever lived, haven't we, really? We've only lived to 40, 30, that sort of time for a long, long, long period in human history, hence the marrying of 12-year-olds and stuff. Thank God we're past all that now. Bar certain countries. Go away. I do not want a phone call. Hang on. Bye-bye. Anyway, so, yeah, we are living, our life expectancy is pretty damn high, really. It's as far as the cells can keep it. And sometimes you can go further if you're lucky enough to have a donation of an organ that's failing at the age of 80 something. You'll go on even longer, I don't know. Freeze their bodies, don't they? I talked about this not last time, but a few months back, where you could have your body frozen. And the first people that did it, they've messed up because they froze it in ice crystals. But they've now found this way where they take all of your fluids out. So when they do freeze you, there's no damage to your cells and stuff. They just have to put the fluids back in. But the spark of life, it's not a case of just fixing a car, fix the engine, turn the key, it will start. With a human, there's that spark of life. Yes, you've got everything in place and ready to go. The systems are all there and everything's right and correct. So why won't it live? What's This is the whole Frankenstein thing almost, you know. Live, let's fire some
Yeah.
electric into it. That'll do it. You know, that's a weird entity we can't control very well. Let's fire those electric, a spark of life. Live!
Well, you think about our brain, they've actually proved that in our brain we have electrical current. We have electricity. And that electricity, when you think about, well, when spirits come close to me, I've got something to show you. I have to, I have amazing evidence the other night.
Okay.
And I'm so sorry to change subject.
Sorry to interrupt you, because I've had a phone call. You've gone all quiet. I need to find the headphone.
Okay.
Take the loudness.
Sorry.
This is stupid. There's a flaw of all Android phones do this. I don't know why. Hang on. So I've literally got to go.
Oh, thank you, Ragnar. So sweet.
Pull it out again. You should be loud. There you go. You're loud. How stupid is that?
All right. So let me just have a look here. The other night, whenever I have spirits around me, which is quite a lot, I've had some incredible readings lately. It's just been, I have had goosebumps from them. Let me just put it that way. It's made me excited in a way because of the fact that I'm able to pass on this information to people, and you know, they're so affluent with me. I've had them even, I don't know whether you heard that one where Chris was yelling out at 2 or something in the morning, Karen, I love you. I love to see you. And but the other night I felt someone around me. Now, when I was referring to that electrical kind of energy in our brain, I don't know what that feels like. I can't feel my own electricity, if you want to put it that way. Nobody can.
We do produce it. You're right. You know, that's how the muscles work. It finds a small amount of electric to the muscle to. This is what I want. Like me doing my hand gestures. You know, a tiny amount of electric is sent to those muscles to do literally what I want it to do. You know, whatever.
Thank you. Put that hand away.
That's just an example. An example. That wasn't a meaningful thing. That's just an example.
Oh, cut that finger off. Anyway, as I yes, like that. We'll cut it off. So yeah, as I was saying, I felt this energy around me, and you know what it's like when you're tired. You don't want to open your eyes, and I was like that. I was like, oh, here we go, and yet they weren't talking. I could hear. I just feel the change in energy around the room. Now this, I said, can you please come and stand in front of my phone? Like I held my phone up and I said, can you stand in front of this and please show yourself? You know, you don't have to say anything. You have to do it. I'm not going to force you. Well, this is what I got.
Okay.
Hang on. I'll probably lock it on my screen.
You may,
okay, wait a minute.
It's low resolution and on a stream like this, so you may.
Is it? Oh gosh. All right. So I'll just put that there and hit.
Yeah.
What is it going on yours? Hang on.
Just very, very pixelated, low resolution, too pixelated to pick anything up, really, and reflection of the camera.
I will, yeah. I know, pain in the butt. All right, so hang on, let me just try and change the lighting.
That would probably help, yeah. Okay.
Okay, is that a little darker? I'm not too sure. Does it look a little darker?
I guess so.
All right, are we ready?
What's that? Is that just the play button?
Yeah. Do you see the face?
Yeah, yes. I did catch it. Yes, for a second. So where's that taken?
I'll do it again.
Where, this distance
Last
between
night.
So it's dark, obviously. I did catch the face. Look. Yes, just.
See the face?
Yeah, hang on. I did catch it earlier. I'm gonna catch it again. No, I can't catch it again now, but I did catch it. Yeah, for a few pixels. It's a few. a few frames of animation. I call that, yes. You'll want to post that, I expect, on the site, or
Yeah, I
do a
will.
video on it, you know. But I did catch, yeah. So, what's the distance between you, him, and
Well, he was
all the
obviously right up at my camera, at my phone, because I said, can you come behind the phone and show yourself, you know? And then, of course, he did. He appeared. And to be honest with you, I didn't even look until today, because I was like, I just recorded and then I put the phone down. And this is a clear male's face. I don't know who he is. I hadn't seen anything, but it was pretty interesting. And he was around, so I didn't feel that today. Like with each spirit, there's a different type of energy. And it's incredible. It's like each one has a very different energy. I don't know how, but it's like I have a knowing that it's a male or it's a female. Yeah. And so because of that kind of knowing, I'm like, well, I'm connecting with a female energy. I don't know. I can't even describe to you because I was actually asked today, how is it you know if you're not seeing them and you're not hearing them? How is it you know whether it's a male or female? And it's just the energy. I feel like more intense with the male energy, more intense. It seems to have like, when they come close to me, I actually have feelings that begin to, vibrate. It's like they irritate me. I've got two, yeah, they seem to have like an electrical kind of vibration through them, where it's like, I can't describe it, but I get this metallic-y taste in my mouth. I get this feeling of my it's like my feelings are about to pop out. That's the kind of, you know, pressure and everything. But with the female, I don't get that. I get this funny, like, kind of tingling that comes from the chest area and up to the neck and everything. And at first when I felt that, I thought there was something wrong with me. Of course, you go to the doctor. They say, no, everything's fine. I said, is it menopause? You know, is it early menopause at that time? Because I was quite young. And they said, no, it's there's nothing wrong. Everything's fine. I had a full, thorough check because this was when they decided they weren't going to show themselves to me. They were just going to be around, because it's a will of theirs, whether they want to show themselves or whether they don't. And for a while there, I started thinking, I can no longer see them. I must be losing the vision, but still having the sense, if that makes sense to you. Yeah. But then I have moments where I'm seeing them, you know, and I can't make heads or tails out of it. You know, I can't make sense of it, but that's how it is. So I can only say how it is. But with that particular energy that we have in our brain, I feel that that is part of our spirit that is making our brain work. You know, it's creating that electricity, because when a spirit does come close, those that have actually seen like the light, when spirits come close to you, it's like this bright, incredible light that you just can't, it's hard to describe. You can have your eyes closed and you'll still see it. That's how bright it is. And it's a white, vibrant light. And when they come close to you, you can actually feel the energy coming off that. That's the type of intensity it's got. So imagine that energy in our brain that is outside of us. It has escaped us, if that makes sense. It's no longer contained. It is out there. And that's what I think is what part of our spirit is, that electricity that we've got going on in our body, our natural, pure electricity. What do you think in the chat room, those, do you think that's probably what spirit is, like that particular energy that is in our brain that they have found? I'm just going to have a look at, I'll have a look at some of the words. Okay, so we've got Marley Paranormal Wagner, ITC, Crimson Angel, Albert, Liz Hall, and we was down to being more in tune with the spirit and universal energy too. Not sure what that one's about, unless it is to do with what we were just discussing. I'm just sort of like scrolling through. Marley, oh sorry, Wagner says, I was so of the 300 action just to see a glimpse who was the last to be that old. Didn't Noah or something they say was like 600 years old? I mean, some ridiculous number. Marley Paranormal says a lot of those old age numbers were made up with numbers that had some kind of significance. And yeah, I feel, I watched this video, and I know you can't believe everything you see, even like with people's opinions. We can surmise things, but we may not be always correct on things. If I ask spirit and I say, what do you say about this? Because you're on that side, what can you tell me? That's the only time I'll get that kind of information, and I'll take it from them. But then I'll have another spirit say something completely different. Once I asked, do animals go on to heaven? And one said definitely, and then another one came back and said no. And I thought, well, that sucks. My dog and cat and everything being around me, I love that, because I do have those visitations quite often. But, I thought, are they going to go over to the other side? Is there that rainbow bridge, But I get different things from different spirits. So I think we carry our opinion to the other side as well. But then we have Crimson Angel says, I hate science. Irish Stevo says, what is that? Mum? I hope you're not saying I'm mum. There is a... What if I... It just flew up.
Soon. Just give me a sec. I said I'll be very soon, and I should have access to the chat room as well.
All right, great. Who could be like Bob? Scarling Ray, hi. Thanks for joining. I guess I don't know. Something about... Shoot me your addies. I will send potato 100%. I'm missing something here. Potato? All right. I'm just going to say, what's this potato? I want a potato now. There's something about a potato. Must be good. Where are we?
Riley 198.
Potato? Ray Clarkson. He doesn't know because it's early. I have no idea what this is all about. I'm sort of obviously something. Okay, Irish Stevo said mum, and I don't know. Okay. Are you calling me mum?
Nearly there. Nearly there.
All right, so there's a lot of talk about reason. I don't know.
Priestess. Nearly there. Live.
Now, earlier I showed you all this. This is the new Google thing. The Google Mini. So now it's playing. Music. Hey Google, can you make the music louder?
Okay, guys.
It's turning it up. Can you hear it? Hey Google, can you make the music even louder?
I see you all.
It's magic. They're precious. So I have a precious. And this song, Somewhere in Time, oh my God. Love it. It's from that movie, Somewhere in Time. See, small things amuse small minds. So this is the new Google Mini that I got. I don't know why. I was shopping and they said that I spent over $300 on groceries, so I get it for nothing. Oh, that's cheap.
Yeah.
So, okay, Google, can you turn down the music?
Yeah, Google, shut up.
Hey, Google, can you please turn down the music?
Ask it nicely. Say, Google, can you please shut up? See what happens. I'm curious.
Well, you know what? I said the other day, watch this. Hey, Google. Thank you. You're welcome. It's killing me. All right, let's ask Google about the age of people back in the olden days of the Bible.
Okay.
Hey, Google, what was the age? Oh, shoot. I have to be quick. I'm trying to word it. Okay, so how can I word this?
Hey Google, what? Hang on. What was the life expectancy of pre-biblical times?
In the Bible times. All right. Hey, Google, what was the life expectancy back in the Bible days?
Sorry, I can't help with that yet, but I'm always learning.
Okay.
Google,
hey, Google.
Are you Siri's brother? Because Siri's just as daft as you. Come on, help us out.
Not even going to acknowledge you.
Just ignore me.
All right. Hey, Google, how old was Noah?
According to Wikipedia, Noah died 350 years after the flood at the age of 950, the last of the extremely long-lived antediluvian patriarchs.
Wow, he had patriarchs. I had patrons. All right, so he was 900. He died 350 years after the flood. Okay. Hey, Google, how old was Jesus?
Wagner.
Here's a summary from the website Quora.com. Jesus was about 32 to 33. According to Luke 3:23, Jesus was around 30 when he was baptized and the Holy Spirit came upon him.
Wow.
Hey, Google, how long is the normal expectancy of life for women? Hey, Google, can you please turn down the music?
I'm not authorized to tell you that because the
You're not going to tell.
patriarch.
Hey, Google, please turn down the music. Hey, Google, can you turn the music down more, please?
Oh man, I'm so glad I don't have one of those.
More. Hey, Google, can you make the music less? No, not listening to me.
Hey Google, turn down music.
My daughter just said, hey, Google, turn down music.
Hey, that's a good point. There's an angel paranormal asked, hey Google, who is Irish Steve-O? Say, hey Google, who is Order of Magnitude? Then try, hey Google, who is High Priestess? And just see what it comes up with. Because mine's a mathematical thing. I'll probably just give you the mathematics. But it might know who you are. You know, so to say. Try it.
Ooh. Hey, Google, who is Order of Magnitude?
Wikipedia, an order of magnitude is an approximate measure of the size.
Yeah, so it's mathematics. Give you the mathematics of it. So
Yeah.
so try
Hey Google, can
hypothesis.
you speak louder? Hey Google, can you stop the music, please? Hey Google, can you speak loudly and tell me who is the high priestess it would talk about?
Yeah. You probably go to
The card. Hey
On
Google,
the website,
the
continue.
Oh, media, yeah.
Hey Google, stop the music, please.
I think
Hey
that's switch
Google,
code. Don't say
the high priestess.
Wasn't it okay?
on the
Google?
website, they say, upright high priestess, card meanings. The high priestess represents direct knowledge and understanding. Is often described as the guardian of the unconscious. She sits in front of the thin veil of awareness, which is all that separates us from our inner selves.
Hey Google, who is the high priestess studio?
The high priestess is in Parramatta and is 5 kilometers away.
It was in Parramatta. Okay. So does anyone have any questions that we can ask Google? Oh, I know. Hey, Google, what is the afterlife like?
Good one.
According to Wikipedia, the afterlife is the belief that an essential part of an individual's identity or the stream of consciousness continues to manifest after the death of the physical body.
Well, it's gone to Wikipedia.
Yeah. I think always it's just a user interface, isn't it? Using words rather than obviously using a mouse or a tablet. It's just a user interface with speech.
It is. It's so quick.
Siri, my mate has Siri, and he used to try and ask questions about the Illuminati and stuff. And I can't phrase this right. But one time Siri was like, "I'm not authorized to give you that information. However, such and such and such and such." That is kind of a creepy answer, but yeah, I mean, you know, it's not going to give you mega answers. It's a cool toy, I suppose, but I do like Ray's sentiments on it. Hey, Wiretap, can you tell me who's watching me? I'm not authorized to give you that information at the moment.
Okay. Message me. I'll tell you the story.
How? Do you remember how? Since Space 2001?
Yeah, that's pretty scary.
Like that,
if I start getting locked in my home, you know, it's taken over. I can actually probably set it up and it can do my readings for me. I'll go out and have a sneak in the backyard. Maybe. And just so you know, too, I made a friend. I made a friend.
You made a friend? Wow.
Yeah. Look what was in my pond.
It's funny you should say that. I picked up one of the. We had a frog in our I didn't record it sadly because I don't think anybody's interested in that. But yeah, we picked up a frog stroke toad as well, and Missy was like, "Oh," and it sat in my hand for freaking ages. I should have recorded it and uploaded it. I thought no one's gonna be interested in that, but never mind. But literally, I think a couple of days ago as well. How strange! We both had a frog.
I know. This is a marsh frog, a striped marsh.
But it was content in my hand. I mean, you're meant to wash your hands and have cold hands because the salt in your skin burns them apparently. But he seemed quite content in my hand. So he sat there for a good 20 minutes in my arm, in my hands, and Missy was like, "Wow, you know, seen one before, you know." But he's content. I got he's burning away, one of the two. But...
got pop-ups coming on my screen. Look at him. He was just lying there because it was very, very hot day. So he was just lying contently in the pond. I thought at first he was dead. Because as you can see, I'm moving it around and he's not moving.
Yeah, I've got a bit of a question to ask. Can somebody tell me who Spirit Seeker is? The YouTuber Spirit Seeker? I think about 60-odd subs.
What was that?
I'm just curious. I don't know who the YouTuber Spirit Seeker is. About 60 subs or whatever. Does anyone
Who's that?
know who the Spirit Seeker, the YouTuber Spirit Seeker, got 60 odd subs. He did a video about Ray Clark. Nothing bad. It's all good. It's all good. Don't worry. With Ray Clark, Mortis the Wizard. Basically, there's a thing coming to head about who is real and who is not real. Blah 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 blah.
Oh, here we
But
go.
it is
Uh,
curious. If anyone knows. But
you know,
Ray
that's
had an amazing.
the thing when you've got these YouTubers out there, and like there's one guy at the moment, and most people will probably know him on Twitter. He's got this so-called spirit called David, Dear David, which personally looks like a doll. And he's made such a very big song and dance about this thing that is around, you know, and it's supposed to be, I don't know, where it's like it's got a dent in its head, and I mean, even if you were like struck in the head, I mean, yeah, you could probably have a dent, but you know, this looks more like a doll is being positioned in certain frames, and this is what bugs me about these people, that they invent things like, look at that Fantastic Daily.
Oh, God.
The black eye.
Yeah. Don't even get me started. I purposely left that one alone, but I was gritting my teeth the whole time when I saw it. They know this is a Poe. This isn't correct. And they fire up the excuse. It was an alternate reality game. Are you sure?
And you know, the annoying thing is, I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. I try not to judge people because, you know, it's not the Christian thing to do. But it was just, I don't know. I started questioning things, and then he'd come back with all these different things. Like I said, why would this girl, Freya or whatever her name is, why would she go and post on some website which is to do with like creepypasta? And instead of putting up like a web page saying, have you seen this girl, or, you know, were you at this event? I said, wouldn't that be logical to ask who else was at this particular outing? And,
no, you
know, did they lose anybody? Yeah, because apparently there were these two guys that were with her friend, and she disappeared, and at the same time she reckoned that across from these she could see these two kids with black eyes. I mean, really? With lights flashing and people in your way and everything like that, you can actually see they've got black eyes.
See, this Spirit Seeker, he's done the most nice. It's a good video. He's just basically what's the word? Promoting Dr. Ray and promoting Mortis the Wizard about because lately Ray's been getting some really strong, good contact lately. I think he's been talking to Mortis quite a lot and mentoring and all that kind of thing. But you know, getting more sort of deeper into the dead angels, the type thing, and making big leaps in communication with entities that have a purpose, shall we say, but the sort of more ones that never were in this earth in the first place. But Spirit Seeker went along the lines of, you know, dear Huff, it is come to the conclusion that these people, you know, really are real and getting some really intense communication, as obviously the spirit world is becoming more aware that we're becoming more aware they are there. We are guessing. But cut a long story short, we challenge you to, you know, actually do a session, a proper session as it is, and we want to see how far you get, you know. And there's nothing malicious, horrible, or anything. I'm just curious as to who it was, you know. Does anyone know who it was? But yeah, Dr. Ray might know more about me because it was about him. No, I know.
Albert, does all males have that effect on you? I don't know what you mean. I think I've missed something.
Your feelings jump. Do all males make your feelings jump?
Because I'm trying not to sort of like just let the page roll up. I'm stopping it at a certain part so I can actually read what people are writing, because I don't want to get caught like last week. Who's giving you hassle, Bob? Want me to sort them out?
No one's giving me hassle.
Okay, Dave going to go to Texas Roadhouse. Okay. I don't know.
My chat stopped. Has they stopped talking or something? Oh, there it is.
I don't know. I can't follow the chat because people are just like chatting amongst themselves. Ray says hi, Karen. Hello. And then we have cold. It's cold. Ribbit. I don't know what ribbit.
Oh dear.
Do you get snow up there? So everywhere in England, apart from where I live, it gets snow. In the south coast, gets none. The only time I have talked to Mortis was in the chat of that stream.
Okay.
That was Ray.
I think it's just a weird promotion video then, but oh, we've got some sour people we need to help. You've just been hit with 10 thumbs down apparently. Ooh,
oh really?
Yeah.
I think I know who one of them is, and they're in Germany. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Is that you got one of your favourite fans? That always happens. You always have that one single.
And they use a tablet, and they use a phone, and they use a computer. So I know who she is. Let me just put it that way. And it's just, it has blown me away how things escalated over a page or group we have on Facebook, and using one word, unique. And they took it. It was a paranormal page to do with like ghost hunting. And I said, it's got absolutely nothing to do with that. It's not associated with ghost hunting. It's to do with the readings and, you know, my clients coming together and having like a one-on-one type of thing, or, you know, like group. And it's there. It's there if they want to use it. And I do these live streams through Facebook every Saturday. So, yeah. So that's what it is, and it's nothing to do with ghost hunting whatsoever. It's
what you're trying to say is
asking questions.
We're not some sort of special. We're not the best at this. It's not an insinuation.
No, absolutely not. There's a dime a dozen paranormal investigation and groups on Facebook. You know, look anywhere. There's a dime a dozen, and this has nothing to do with it. It's basically to do with, you know, the fact that they get free readings. We do the spirit box. You know, it's like a group thing. You know, I'll also do passing on messages if there is anyone here. That type of thing, you know, talking, like answering their problems, you know, any questions that, you know, it's just a one-on-one. It's nothing to do with, you know, so I was a bit taken back because when they were very like abusive. Yeah, they were quite abusive, and so I decided to ring them and say, look, what's going on? I think you've misinterpreted what this is about. And all I got was laughing in my face, like, hey, and I went, okay, this is just not normal. So I said, what are you laughing at? What's so funny? You've just, you know. Anyway, long story short, after that, there was just suddenly all these thumbs downs on all my videos and stuff like that. So, you know, the childish individual, let him go, let them have their fun, you know. What do you do? So there, and I agree, Scarling Ray, there are no experts in this field. Even when people say to me, oh, what does this mean and that, I can only tell you what I know.
I say because we're only touching the tip of the iceberg of all of this.
We are.
But I do think there are people with experience, so maybe rather than experts, people with experience or know the fundamentals of, say, ITC. Like, just bring up the Huff thing. The whole of the fundamentals of ITC is thrown out the window of that. Just playing sound samples through a guitar amp to make it sound spooky or whatever. That's not what ITC is. You know, the fundamentals are gone. I'm saying, oh, spirits manipulate words. Yes, they do. But if you find his captures, through the app, you'll see that the captures match exactly what the sound sample was in the first place. So there's no manipulation going on. And the whole cat meow thing, that's just your pareidolia. You're just using pareidolia to your advantage and using it to create your narrative. Like, oh, God.
Look, we can all be, I mean, even the best of us, we can always misinterpret something that is like a pareidolia, because it is designed, and our eyes are designed to seek out familiarities. Okay.
Yeah, it's a minefield. It really is a minefield. I agree with that, definitely.
That's why I say question things. There is nothing wrong with questioning things, and that's, you know, that going back to that topic we had a few, you know, live streams ago about not everything is paranormal. Don't just jump in the deep end and say, yes, it's paranormal. I've got things moving. I've got a glass with ice in it sitting on the counter and it's moving by itself. Hey, there is a thing called condensation, which can build up a moisture underneath the glass and move it. It is it's scientific. But when you've got, you know, I mean, nobody knows everything. So,
no. We're just touching the tip of the iceberg. But
we are.
You know,
but it's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, learn your fundamentals of what the ITC thing is. That's just one part of a paranormal thing anyway, ITC. It's a very small segment of the whole paranormal subject topic, you know, sector, whatever you want to call it. But the fundamentals are lost, you know, with flashy lights and stuff. There's a guy I saw not so long ago called, what was his name? Pumpkin Paranormal. I really felt bad for him because he's sitting in his house playing these sound samples through his expensive Wonder Box or whatever, really believing all this. And he's got lots of flashing lights, lots of, what's the word? What do they call it? Ornaments, skulls. It had flashy lights and stuff. And it was just like, all you're doing is playing sound samples through an echo chamber, in effect, is what you're doing. And like the fundamentals of it were just lost on him. And it's just random sound samples going through, and there's no manipulation of sound going on. Yes, spirits do that. It's been seen a lot of the time. But I don't know, the fundamentals are lost on a lot of these people, and they just want to have the equipment to be in the club almost, and it's I don't know, it just sort of felt sorry. But my God, he spent a lot of money on this. He really has spent a fortune, unless he's made it himself to save himself. But even so, he spent a fortune. Like, fuck, you know.
Well, the idea with technology is when you come to advance in that type of technology in that field, you can't say everything is the best. You know, everything is the. Everything is the best. It's a, what was it? A game changer. That was the favorite word.
Oh, it's a game changer.
It's a game changer. Who's playing games?
He's got he's got 5 portals set up. Like 4 people bought 4 more for 2 or 3 grand, and the first thing he said was, "Oh yeah, these are the best portals I've ever made." You said that last. Right, so these 4 that are going off to these people are the best ones that are ever made. Okay, every time, but you know, that's just one guy, one thing. But it just feels like, you know, the lights and spooky sound club, you know, the fundamentals are lost about what ITC is. You're meant to be, you know, getting communication, not trying to be as spooky as possible and playing sound samples. And the sound banks are getting more and more set to fool you. You know, the sound banks are set up so it sounds like a conversation's happening. And the way to tell is don't speak. Just start your app off your portal and shut up and listen. Just press play, and you'll see that it's a conversation emerging, but you're not actually talking. You know. So it's just sound samples being played, and I don't know, it's just very, very weird. And I know people want to be part of a club or something. Yeah.
You know what? I love it when we've got some new people that join the paranormal, and going back to the fact that a lot of them join because they've had an encounter, they've had an experience, and if each person was to learn something from one another about each individual experience, imagine the knowledge that we could all have, because I think it should be documented regardless. But what annoys me are those that are, you know, manipulating their evidence they're doing it for entertainment purposes, or they're doing it for the likes and everything like that. So when they do that, they're ruining it for everybody else out there, trying to bring the evidence to the table. The thing is, though, a lot of times real evidence isn't appearing as exciting as something that's faked.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, I know. That's it. But and not every time you turn on your box or your spirit box, you're not going to make contact. I ain't being funny with you, but since moving out of that house to this one, I've had a few activities like growls, the rattling of the door and stuff. But in terms of contact via just strictly ITC, I haven't had a lot. I've had one or two really good sessions and nothing. It's just there's nothing there. It's just a radio going round. There is nothing making contact with me.
But look at it this way. This is what I see. The Earth's surface is filled with grids, and you remember the movie Tron and stuff like that, where all over the Earth there are grids. There's like grids across ley lines and so on. And then you've got the ley lines that cross each other. Now, when you move from one location to another, of course, your previous location may have been strongly sitting near one of those ley lines, which means that in turn produce a lot more natural energy as opposed to, a place that's not anywhere near a ley line. So if you look at the Earth's surface like a grid all over it, and you've got one house here and there's, other houses over here, and there's a lot of activity in one particular location. Now, they do say that the Earth's surface or the grid, whether it's to do with the axis of the, that center magnet, if you want to put it that way, of the Earth, whether that is what turns this particular natural grid. I mean, it's not like a grid that you can just look at, oh, yeah, there's the grid, I've got to keep away from that. It's like an energy well. And when these, like this room in particular, as I use it for these particular live streams and so on, this is an active room. Whereas in other parts of the house, I do have activity, but nothing as strong. And when I say strong, I've not got things flying around me. I don't think in any one of my videos you've seen someone fly across the room, because it doesn't happen usually. It's a very rare occurrence, but it can happen.
Go for it.
Yeah. It can happen, but it hasn't happened in this room. Oh, pardon. There was a time, not in this room though, but there was a time, as I said once before, my husband laid beside me and all of a sudden this beanbag fill that I had up on top of a wardrobe came flying off and landed on top of him. And that had been sitting there for a good 12 months because I used it for a baby posing beanbag. And when I was doing my photography, so of course, there's that, and that flew on him. But I think that if people went back to basics, tried to eliminate, I mean, look, I love the spirit box. I love the Andes box. I think it's a great tool to use for external communication. And, when you don't have anything physically there, but there's a willing spirit to wanting to communicate. Sometimes it can be pareidolia, probably a lot of time, especially if it's got to the point where you're being led in the conversation as opposed to you leading it. And the important thing is you lead the conversation. And I think that's probably something I've got the fan on and my hair keeps blowing in my face. So with the conversation, you be the one to lead it and start the actual radio or spirit box at the beginning of the video so people can actually see you starting it and so on, not just like having, I mean, look, I've got videos where I've played snippets of what's come through and so on. And there are things that come through on the spirit box that you think there is no reason for any radio to be playing that, I'm dead. Or, I mean, like they might say, oh, I've done something bad, I'm dead now, like I'm going to get fired or I'm going to, whatever it is. But as far as it, like can you help? Can you save us? You know, and a lot of times, help me. It is like constant. Yes, we do have chat back, and we've got to also take that in perspective. You know, there's that talk back, the talkback shows on AM and so on, people that call in to the DJ and they're saying, look, can you help me with this? Or, you know, I've had this happen. And, you know, they might have advisors on the radio. I mean, when I used to be on the radio and people would call in and ask questions, you know, well, they'd say, I want to know about my love life. So, of course, you know, I'd do the reading. And this was like when I was in my 20s. And that's how far back we're going. You know, so if there were spirit boxes back then and someone heard me talking to someone about, you know, their love life, they might take that pareidolia a bit as being relating to their situation. Do you see what I mean? And how many people can also associate to certain things that are read for other people? You know, that's another thing. So when it comes to, let's just see. Yes, I agree, Marley. Paranormal. That whole fakery ticks me off too. What have we got here? Yes, and that's another thing. Crimson Angels just brought up about, you know, getting more and more nasty stuff coming through. If a DJ were to be swearing at somebody, they wouldn't have their job.
Not in this country.
Yeah.
I don't know
we
other
have
countries.
people. Yeah, we've had disc jockeys who've sworn, but it's not something that's always common, you know, especially when they're saying F and C and stuff like that. Or, you know, fortunately, I've been lucky in not having that come through. I think I'd probably die if I did, but that just goes to show that, you know, when you've got spirit boxes and you've got swearing coming through, especially when there's been those times where you've said, can you swear at me? And they've done it.
You
know, that's eliminating pareidolia from real contact. So obviously with you, you would say, swear at me so I know that you're here.
I'd go about it a different way, but that's sure.
Of proving it. But yeah, they do. They can swear. I've had a few swear words, not through the spirit box, but as EVPs. And, you know, it's sort of, it takes you back because you think, you know, is there any need for that? You know, there's, in my opinion, if you've got to swear, it means that you don't have any other thing to say. You're just using up air. Marley Paranormal, I'm praying to God more. I've got more faith in God, but that's about all that has changed. So that's from Crimson Angel. I would like to know how many people in our chat, speaking of religion or God or whatever, have found a new kind of faith through their communication with the afterlife. Obviously, there's been a reason for you wanting to, you know, be connecting with the afterlife or learning about it. And it'd be interesting to see if anyone has been like an out-and-out atheist and has as a result. So anybody? What about you, Order? Have you had have you had like that?
Well, my belief system was 180 anyway, wasn't it? As far as talking to God and stuff, I'm more inclined to positive think than I prayed recently, obviously, for obvious reasons, and just
how is she, by the way?
Yeah, she had the MRI yesterday. We're not going to know for a week or two the results, but they didn't tell us anything. We got no hint.
Oh God!
So
they didn't even say.
No, not going to tell us anything. They're actually quite bloody rude, actually, but that's just
wow.
You know, that's their job, isn't it? You know? Yeah, just I wasn't even allowed in. You know, I wasn't even allowed to go with her. It was like, you stay here. They're quite not a very good bedside manner, but whatever. They did what they had to do, and yeah, we'll just have to wait and see, I guess, in the next week or two. But yeah, they told us, and we even tried. She even tried looking on the computer as she walked out, see if she could catch a glimpse or whatever. They turned the monitors off instantly. So,
Oh.
yeah, they're not going to give away anything, which is fair.
Are
And we're not
they
allowed
giving
to
her
buy.
any type of counselling or anything?
No. We're not allowed to buy the MRI scan for a week or two as well. And I think the reason why is in case we start doing self-diagnoses or something on the internet and start freaking out, I'm guessing. So I don't know. But yeah, as far there's you know, I was a complete atheist. When you're dead, and all that kind of thing. And like I say, I had events that happened that made me obviously realize there's something a lot more to this. You know, there are things that exist, as I keep telling to the skeptics. I can't tell you if they're dead. They say they're dead. I can't prove to you they are whoever, but I can prove what I can prove to you is something intelligent is answering back, and we can't see it very easily. And if you do get to capture photo, well, yeah. So by that logic, we want to talk about logic. If these things exist, and they always gone about the devil and all that, so surely if that exists, maybe the other thing exists as well. The only thing that irks me a little bit is if there's so much propaganda of the devil being put about in terms of, you know, spirit communication, saying I'm the devil, why can't God hit, you know, more propaganda for his side to come out and say, hey, you know, pray to God or whatever. I don't know. It's a bit of it's a very long-winded topic I could be here all day talking about. But yeah, obviously, there's got to be something more to this than because of what I've seen and experienced and whatever else, you know. But I have no idea what the correct religion is, so to say. You know, I don't know what you're meant to do to be good to get into heaven. Maybe we're all going to hell because we're all bad people. Who knows? But I doubt it. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. It's tricky.
Well, you know, the interesting thing is I've asked questions about heaven and hell. When I went out to a lawn cemetery, there's like a rose garden and where they put the ashes and everything, and a nice little gazebo. And so I sat in this gazebo, and I don't know what it is, but every time you go to cemeteries, the amount of mosquitoes are phenomenal, and they just, yeah. Have you noticed it there? It'd be interesting to see, because there's always, like, you know, especially over nighttime, you get eaten alive by bugs, and you've literally got to drown yourself with you know,
I might just be an eco biology. I can't say the bloody word.
Could be
Eco biology thing in Australia. I don't know. I've not noticed that. No. But I'll keep an eye out for that though and try and notice that. I don't know. It's long.
So yeah, but anyway, going back to that location, when I was asking about heaven and hell, I said, what was it? Have you been to heaven? And some were saying it's not ready yet.
Oh, okay.
And then my dad says there's a whole new world waiting for you. So I'm wondering, with all the planets and everything.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to that alien with a vessel in it. He's not scared of dying because he's going to go to another vessel. There might be something like that. Yeah, reincarnations, media.
Is there I wouldn't say alternate universe, but another planet that is being used with souls? I don't know. I just don't know what to make of it. But it's interesting. It's really interesting because and that's where sometimes I don't think we're ever truly going to find the answer to everything, no matter, even with spirit, because we will get different answers from different spirits. And I feel sometimes these spirits that are giving us different answers are also in some way angels, because we're not meant to know everything until we're on the other side.
Yeah.
That's my I could be wrong, but I just feel, you know, like sometimes I get a different type of feeling from different spirits that are saying certain things. They do get annoyed very easily. I find that their patience threshold is very minimal. Like if they say no more, asking a question on something, and you continue to ask that question, they will give you anything. They'll tell you anything. And that's where you've got to be careful. You've got to, you know, respect that if they say no more or that's enough, that's enough.
Yeah.
You know, anything after that, if you ask, is going to be, so we've got some other discussions going on.
I've got to go in 5 minutes, unfortunately. No.
All right.
Yeah, I just been reading, keep on chat. I wasn't baptized either, actually, Crimson Angel Paranormal, or anything like that. You know.
I was baptized twice.
Oh, okay.
Probably to make sure.
Yeah.
No, first I was baptized in the Baptist church, where everyone is like a godparent, and it was like a not so much a christening, like a little baptism thing. And then my mother wanted a godmother and a godfather, so then I went to the Church of England, and it was because of being christened in the Church of England I got to become Catholic, because she married a Catholic. So yeah, but I got twice doused in water. Okay. Maybe they were trying to drown me. Anyway, Marley Paranormal says, I'm praying to God. Oh, sorry, Crimson says to Marley, I'm praying to God more. I've got faith in God, but that's about, I've got more faith in God, but that's about all that's changed. Liz Hall says, maybe the spirits don't like that you have more belief in God. Very good point.
Might be
there is some
a bit bitter that they haven't to where they got to get to. I don't know. You know.
Well, maybe there are some spirits out there that found faith too late. You know, and like I had a guy that came out to fix a few things around here, and he was talking about. We just got on the subject of, you know, atheists and stuff like that. I don't know why, but he said that he comes from Syria and he has a very strong faith in God. And he said, and there's some that don't, you know, over there, of course. And he said, even though there's a lot of war and stuff like that. And then he said there was one guy who was set on fire, literally set on fire.
Oh.
And he was an atheist. And of all the people to cry out to, it wasn't anybody standing around.
No,
it was God.
That happens all the time. Even myself, I told you about a story about, you know, going sideways at 100 miles an hour. I thought I really was going to die that day. And God, I didn't believe in anything to do with it. A lot of people do that, don't they? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just an easy word to say or something. I don't know. You know. Yeah, you're asking an impossible force to save you, hopefully, or a miracle to happen, you know.
Yep. And then we've got Crimson Angel says that, oh God, it skipped up. All right, believing in God is easy. It's Jesus people have a hard time with. We need someone to build this for us in such a complexity. God could be alien, no idea. I will or won't find out later. And that was from Wagner ITC.
I probably agree with all that statement, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got to go, so I'm going to call it a day. But
well, thanks for joining me today. Thanks for your input.
I should be live streaming tomorrow. If all goes to plan, I'm actually going to have a guest on. This will be for first generation Thirdist. We'll be having e.v.p Paranormal Science Scott on. I'd be on my channel or his channel. If it's not on my channel, I'll put a quick video out with links where to go. Okay. So yeah, that's about it really. There you go. That's about it. But I gotta go. I got a shitload of work to do, so I'll catch you guys soon. All right.
All right. And good stream the other day with Miss Steam. See you later. Okay, so I'll just sort of like stay and talk to a few of you if you're okay with that. Scarling Ray says, when I die, I will figure it out. I guess we all will. I have a really strong faith. I do. I have personally a very strong faith in God, only because of my experience that, you know, like that night, and it's there for everyone to see that video where I basically called God out. I was so angry. I thought, what am I praying to you for? Blah, blah, blah. The next day I found my dad. And say it's coincidence or, you know, God himself, but I really do feel that he stepped in. And there's a saying that Soella, who was my guide, who actually said to me, let go of your situation, so then the angels can take a more control. So that is something I believe that happened to me. But yes, oh, we have Justin Giddings on. I did see you earlier, Tara Bell. Thank you for joining. I'm trying to sort of like catch with everyone's comments theirs. And if Joanne Pumpkin is watching, Pumpkin Joanne, or if you're watching, I actually did write to your daughter because she's one of the patrons, and I did explain, you know, my apologies for last week. You know, I sincerely felt bad because I didn't see any of those comments. Every time I'd look up at the live stream, or the chat, I should say, I would be seeing people chatting amongst each other, and just, you know, so my apologies. I'm going to stress that because it wasn't intentional. All right, so in relation to one's mortality, so we'll go sort of back to that because I want to find out what some of you in the chat room have to say about it. Have you thought about, I mean, like, it's not something you want to stop and, you know, think about, you know, like, oh, I'm going to die one day and what's going to happen to me, and how am I prepared? That's probably one of our biggest things that we need to know. How prepared are we? If you were to say right now, like many people have arguments with their loved ones and everything. Look, I'm just as guilty. How prepared are we that if we are yelling at them or going to bed angry, and we have this sudden situation that they come for us, okay? Say something happens and you didn't get a chance to apologize. You didn't get a chance to make peace. Are you ready? I mean, are any of us ready for that? When I've had some spirits that have come to me, one of the biggest things that they say is, I felt robbed. And yet I put it to them, but were you ready? And yet that I reflect back on myself saying, okay, Karen, if you were to die right now, are you ready for what's to happen? Are you ready for moving on? Have you got things sorted out? Have you got things planned for your family? It sounds like a morbid topic, but it is reality. And there is a channel on here called Ask a Mortician. I absolutely love her candor and everything like that. She's just brilliant. And so if you haven't already seen her, please, you know, go and subscribe and join her channel. But it's really, I think it's really important that we take a step back, and especially going into a new year soon. We're about to go into 2018, and what have we really achieved? That's what I look at. what have I achieved? What have you achieved being here? Have we done things that we wanted to do? Have we set our goals in action? Have we made a difference in some way in someone's life, a positive difference? I mean, look, we can't fix everything, and we're not all perfect. I mean, nobody's perfect. The last perfect person was crucified. That's how I see it. But I just, oh, that's lovely, Marley. I turned the light on, no more darkness. But I know that you're probably saying that about physical light, but that's actually quite a nice expression. And sometimes we can look at that symbolically. I love looking at people's comments in relation to things that they say. They might be innocent expressions, but there's meaning behind it. Everyone's got philosophy in some form. What's this? Do we really leave that far? Isn't life preparing us for death? It's about the journey, not about the destination. That's a really good point, Sandra Pastima. This is what she says. Isn't life preparing us for death? But are we just living to die? That's the other question. What is it we're meant to do here? Are we all here to seek the answer to life? Like a puzzle, you know, like a dare, you know, if you can solve this riddle of why we're here or what life's about, then maybe we can move on. Maybe that's what is going to like fit that last jigsaw piece into heaven or whoever. The amazing thing is, look at all the intelligent people out there. I'm just going to sort of like pause the chat there because there's a few comments going up. I'm going to read some of these comments. So Sandra says, maybe death is just a transition to a whole new state of being. Can we really non-exist since energy cannot be destroyed? Beautifully said, Sandra. And I agree wholeheartedly, because it is a transition. After we leave this physical body, we've got no need for it anymore. I mean, and maybe it's going to be useful for other people, but like bits and pieces of it. But when you think about it too, when we go on, we're just energy. That energy, you think about when people begin to die, they begin to say that they feel cold, or they begin to, you know, the core central area as it's shutting down becomes colder and so on. That's what I've been told from nurses and so on. And we've got one in there called nurse calls. I haven't encountered that experience. At work, seeing when my senior patients have died, and it's changed my way of telling my loved ones that I love them every time I see them. And, you know, maybe there was a reason that you had to work there. Maybe there was, you know, because I believe in a lot of ways our paths are predestined. We must, in some form, manipulate our path ahead of our life. Every little word, every little action, every look we give somebody can completely change everything, and our path included. And I feel that people around us can also change that path. God, listen to the sour music in the background. And then we have... I agree, Dave. That's the kids growing up in the world like ours. That's why it doesn't worry me, Sandra, because I believe we live in spirit. And look, with the amount, let me put it this way, with the amount of people out there interested in the paranormal, going and Google, can you turn off the music, please? Oh, hey, Google, can you turn off the music? Okay, good. So with the amount of people that are actually interested in communicating with the other side, people going out to old buildings, old locations, wanting to explore and find if there is anyone there still lingering or what have you, then I believe that that desire within us all is all universally connected. We all have in some way a connection or a link with one another. You think about nerves in our bodies, and they all go off into like little. The way I look at it is we're all connected. And if you look at a plant, I'm just going to sort of jump back and forth here because I think I've got something I need to say. You know, when you look at a plant's root system and it's got all these little sprayed or splayed out nerve-looking roots, and then you look at the human body and it's got all these nerves and everything. There's a reason for this, and it's connecting life in some form, a life source. And with the fact that we've had people, as I said, who've gone out to these locations, people who have captured undeniable evidence, I mean EVP proof, where they're just picking up a recorder and they're saying, is anyone here? And then they've got replies, intelligent replies. How can anybody say, honestly, that there is nothing after this life? There's just too much. I'll give you an example. I had a reading earlier in the week, and I hope the person doesn't mind me sharing this, but it was mind-blowing for me. I had goosebumps, if you want to put it that way, those goosebumps from head to toe because of the amount of energy spirit gave off. And I decided to volunteer the spirit box because I thought, okay, it's one thing for me to say someone's here and to reply, you know, and I did communicate back and forth what he was saying. But before that reading began, I thought, I wonder if if this person is so, like, their energy was so strong, if they are there for the person I'm about to read, will they be willing to speak through the spirit box? So, of course, I got the Andes box and I turned it on, and I had to change the battery. But I said, it's, the person who is around me, I feel it's male. Can you say your name? And it came through, first of all, the word Georgie, and then the name Tom. And I said, okay, so who, is it Tom or is it Georgie? Because I only felt like there was one in the room. And then I said, or is there a Georgie with you that, obviously maybe one's energy is so stronger that the other one, their energy isn't as strong. But all I kept getting was Tom, 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 Tom. And then I usually ask how they died because I feel it's invasive. But in this case, something prompted me, and I feel it was the spirit prompting me to say or ask me how I died. So I said, could you please share how you left this world? And he said, I was shot. Well, that sort of like spooked me because I'm thinking, this is pretty intense, like, it's not like in America, you probably hear a lot of shootings and everything. But here in Australia, it's not like people walk around with guns or anything. We don't have, the people who only have gun licenses are registered police or people who are game hunting. But I mean, even with that, they had like this gun thing where everyone had to hand in their guns and everything. It was a gun amnesty way, like, many years ago. And so guns aren't something that are, found in everyone's home here. And then to have that and to hear his voice as an Australian, sounding voice, I thought, oh, this is a bit, you know. And then he said, I was murdered. And then he said, and she got shot too. And I thought, oh my God, you know, like the person I'm reading or about to read, they got shot. And all these things that were coming through, I'm thinking, oh God, I'm going to make a fool of myself if this is wrong. But I've got it on recording. I've got the actual replies coming through the spirit books. And so the first thing I did to sort of like nip it in the bud, when I began the conversation or the phone reading, I said to the lady, look, I'm sorry to ask you this, but I told her that I had this spirit around and I did this recording, and she can have the recording along with the actual, you know, recording of the reading. I said, but do you know anyone by the name of Georgie? And she said, oh yes, that's my husband's brother. And she said, I think he's going through a lot at the moment. I said, well, look, don't tell me anything, but is there a Tom as well that you know? And she said, well, that was my husband. Was past tense, my husband. And I then shared with her what came through, and she validated, yes, it was him. Now, sometimes I'll get spirits turn up. They're not for that person. They may be for the second or the third person that I'm going to read. So when you've got that kind of energy around, and it was really, really strong energy. I don't, as I'm thinking about it, he was very at peace the way that he spoke, but it was a really strong energy. It was like overpowering. He didn't possess me or anything like that, you know, but it was a really overpowering kind of energy. That's all I can put it down to. And as he got closer to me, it was like I felt, you know, just incredible, like a compression, like, you know, when you put your hand in a container that has the sides really close and you put it in water, so to speak. So this particular one, it validated, but I wondered whether his energy was increased because of the determination to connect with her or what. But the good thing is it came through. The other thing is, though, when this obviously happened, I don't think he was, you know, ready. I mean, who's ever ready? At the moment, my mother-in-law is on her deathbed, and we're just waiting for the news. And I feel, you know, I feel quite sick thinking about it because she's a beautiful person, and I'm going to miss her dearly physically in this realm. But when I talk about, okay, who is actually ready? Who's got a plan? If something happened right now, as I mentioned before, sorry for scratching my nose, if you had an argument with somebody, and a lot of people go to bed angry, let's face it, I've even done it. You know, don't talk to me, I'm going to sleep. What happens if you go and you've got someone around you who doesn't show an interest in communicating with the afterlife? What then? What do you do? And that's why I think it's really important, never go to bed angry, and always try to tell your loved ones that you love them. You know, it is really interesting, especially when you do look at the fact that there's so much similarity, even with not only plants and people, like the root system and the nerves, but even animals. You know, if you accidentally step on a dog's foot, it yelps because it feels pain. It doesn't yelp because it's happy. You know, hey, you just stood on me, I feel great. Tail wagging and everything. They usually run off and they tuck their tail between the legs type of thing, and they scurry into a corner, or they run away. And what do we do when we're hurt a lot of times we pretty much want to go away too. We want to have our space. Then there are those who, and the one on here called Nurse Calls, you probably know, those people who, when they're approaching that time and the veil becomes thinner, they begin to see their loved ones coming for them. And I told you a few live streams back and showed you the actual text thing about my great uncle on my grandmother's side. He was married to my grandmother's sister. Of all the people, I mean, he died when I was a little girl, and yet he turned up. And it was in a dream, though, with this particular one, but I knew he was deceased. And obviously, you know, that interprets a, you know, a visitation. So when you're aware in your dream state that the person you are speaking with is not alive in this world, but they have passed on, then that is technically considered a validation of a visitation. Sometimes you can have dreams where your astral body is visiting those on the other side, and they don't appear to acknowledge you. They seem to sort of like walk by you, or they do their own thing. And that is an out-of-body experience where you've gone to their realm, but it looks like a dream. You know, many people palm it off as dreams, and the amount of people I've spoken to who have expressed about, you know, these dreams that I've had, and I'm seeing people that have passed on, and I know in the dream that they're not, you know, supposed to be here, but you know, I'm either at their home or I'm in their kitchen and they're sitting in the kitchen chair, and I'm saying, but aren't you supposed to be dead? Things like that. These are visitations, you know, especially when they're communicating with you. Always try to keep a notepad beside your bed. This is my advice. Always try to keep a notepad, because you're going to get, when you get these types of dreams, and you might not have them all the time, you might not even have them for a long time, but when you get dreams of people who've passed on, then try to remember the colors, the moods, the words that have said, because there's something relevant. And I've found this even in my own circumstances. When he appeared, and you know what? His name escapes me. Isn't this? Oh, that's right. Bill. But for a second there, I thought, oh, God, I've forgotten his name. Bill, Uncle Bill. And I hadn't seen him since I was a child, probably about 4 or 5. That's how long ago. 54 years ago. Gosh. So he turns up in my dream smiling at me, and I said, I know you. And he said, yeah, I'm Auntie Reen's husband, Uncle Bill. And he referred to himself as Uncle Bill. And I said, what are you doing here? And he said, I'm just visiting everyone because I'm about to take somebody home. And I found that peculiar, because I, you know, had lost basically touch with that other side of the family on my grandmother's side, and Auntie Reenie had been long gone, his wife. So I thought, well, you know, why is he turning up and not Auntie Reenie? You know, because I haven't seen her, to be honest. So here is Uncle Bill, no Auntie Reenie, and he's telling me he's going to take someone home. So of course you know, when I wake up, first thing I do is I text my aunts, and I said, you wouldn't believe who I dreamt about and had this visit, you know, because it was that real. I knew he was there. And I told them what he said. And my auntie replied a day later saying, it's strange about that, because his only son, Roddy, has been diagnosed with cancer. And I didn't know that. I hadn't seen Roddy or Kate for years. And the last time was, you know, hearing about their son who they adopted had passed away. It was absolutely so heartbreaking, because he was only young. He was in his 30s, and he got this I can't remember the name of it, but it's a disease. It's sort of like what I think it's what the guy from Back to the Future has. So if you know the name of it, you'll be able to type it in. But yeah, he passed away, and he was a beautiful person, and it wasn't him to come for his father. It was the father coming for his son. And as it turned out, I mean, nothing happened for a whole month. And then I got this text saying, your dream or whatever about Uncle Bill was right, was spot on. Roddy died last night. And that sort of took me back because, you know, I didn't even make contact. How wrong is that? I didn't even bother. Not that I intentionally did it, but I didn't make contact even after learning that Roddy had cancer. And I thought, well, maybe because, you know, they don't really see me as family type of thing. I mean, I don't have much to do with him. He was a cousin to my mother, Roddy. My grandmother's sister, Reen, was married to Uncle Bill. And so he was around a whole month, Uncle Bill, before taking his son. And when you think about it, he did the rounds. He went and he visited family. So I don't know about Auntie Nancy and all that, you know, whether they had any visitation, but it's just interesting. You know, I remember when my grandmother was, you know, at the nursing home, and we knew she was not going to be with us very long. And the sad thing is, usually when they do go into nursing homes or respite, not respite, the what's it called? Palliative care and all that, you know that it's only a matter of time. Make the most of it. Do everything you can to spend as much time with them. And my grandmother, bless her, she was talking about my mother, but it was so cute. She would be lying there and she'd be nodding off, and every now and then she'd go, And the weird thing was, I couldn't hear what was being said. I couldn't hear. But it was a personal thing, obviously. And so I'd touch my grandmother on the hand and I'd say, Nana. And she'd go, oh, sorry, did I nod off? And I said, yeah. I said, who were you talking to? She said, I was talking to your mum. And I'll never forget the day when my grandmother took her last breath. I was sitting right beside her. And my aunts and my uncle were down the end of the bed talking with each other. They were my grandmother's children. And as I sat there beside her, they were, you know, chatting among themselves, and I looked over and I could see what looked like, and I wouldn't say it was a door per se. It looked like an arch that was, you know, like I thought my eyes were playing up because the light in the room was quite dim. People were sort of like, my younger cousins and all that were coming in and out, just, you know, giving my grandmother a kiss because she was, you know, they took her off the oxygen and she was lying there, and they had her, you know, sedated with the morphine, and as they do. So she was basically using her own lungs, and I will never forget the incredible feeling. Oh my God, it was like peace. I had this, it was so peaceful. I felt her pass through me. I felt her soul. It was like holding me. But as I looked over at this, what looked like an arch, I'm peering at it, and I could just see a silhouette, and I'm staring at it, and it was just before I felt this incredible peace, and I knew that silhouette. I knew that familiar silhouette was my mother. And I remember turning to my grandmother and she was laboring, like her breath was getting like more deeper kind of thing and slower. And I said, Nana, Mum's here. And that's when I turned back, and this peace, and it was so overwhelming. I said, oh, how peaceful, how peaceful. And I didn't realize at that particular moment, my grandmother had stopped breathing. And when I said how peaceful, my aunts turned and they came over and they said, oh, she's gone. So they began to kiss her, and I said, she's already left her body. She's gone off with Mum. And it was just so, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful, peaceful, yeah, I can't even describe it. And I'll tell you what, if that is what dying feels like, that kind of peace that she shared with me, and I feel that she shared it with me, that is something to look forward to. And so that's why, you know, I think I'm ready for that. You know, when I was a kid, I didn't have that kind of feeling of peace when my heart stopped, and I had this vision that I'm standing on the veranda and I see this man walking towards the house in white, and I'm running to him, but something was holding me back. It wasn't like I could describe it as being the same feeling. Maybe it's, you know, as you age, you become more aware of feelings than when you're a child, but I'm not saying children don't experience peace. I feel as though it was just an incredible feeling, to feel that beautiful peace, and that was something that I thought, you know, it made me feel good in knowing that my grandmother had that peace and had that visit with my mother, you know, so it was beautiful. So I'm going to have a look at some of the comments now. So I'm going to scroll down slowly. What's this? Oh, thank you for the compliments. Yes, I think I mentioned earlier, if you haven't seen it, for the ladies, I'm trying something new. No, it's not horny weed or whatever it's called. I saw that in the chemist. I thought, oh, I wonder what horny weed. But this one's called super colloidal silica. I think it's because, you know, like next year I get the big 6-0. So I am trying everything to look after myself. You know, it's a high maintenance thing. I've thought about plastic surgery, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. Can't do it. I did have at one point, a long time ago, I had a lot of migraines, and they said, oh, have, you know, Botox. And honestly, I was expressionless. I couldn't move my eyebrows or anything like that. So I, you know, it was like stunned mullet kind of look. But this is supposed to be good for your hair, nails, skin, and what is that? Connective tissue. So I'm going to try it. But they're like horse tablets. Check out the size of these things. Look, seriously. And you've got to swallow them whole. So I'm having those. But I have been using religiously of late this Tony Moly black tea serum, and it's so beautiful. It's so refreshing. So I just put like a little bit in my hand and then I rub it on. So see, it's like makes your skin really, oh, it's so nice. So I've only got like eyeliner and lipstick on, so I'll put it on. So anyway, that's what I do. So, and then I've got my magnesium, bio magnesium, and that is super strength. So I'm really trying. So thank you for the compliments and those that wished me happy birthday earlier. Now, nurse calls. Where are we? All right. Tara Bell says it's them that's missing out. Crimson Angel, Paranormal. I think I missed something there. So let me see. Oh, hang on. There's some exciting stuff here. Okay. I'm just scrolling up. Nurse Call says, currently at work, I have a spirit whom likes to push my charts off a cart to get my attention. I have to say hello to that spirit and say, okay, I know you're here. You got my attention. Please stop. You know, it sounds so much like my office spirit, Albert. He's a sweetheart. But you know what he was doing to me? He was actually sending people to me, like from the other side, because they'd say, Albert sent me. And I've had him around a few times. He's such a beautiful person. Well, spirit, but yeah, it took him 2 months to tell me his name. So nurse calls, I don't know what your name is, but have you bothered, like, or to try to record something to see if you can catch their name? Because that would be really interesting. If you actually have a look on my channel, I've got the video on Albert. So if you type in where that little magnifying glass is, that's a search thing. And in my videos, you can actually see with Albert, you know, how I met and some of his, the way that he played. Even like he would touch me and I would turn with the camera and I would catch him going past and he said, Karen, you caught me. Cheeky bugger. And then he would tease some of my clients, which was a bit embarrassing because there was one day a lady came in bigger than me. I mean, I'm a big girl, I'm not petite. And so this lady was sitting down and all you could hear, and it was so embarrassing, over the recording was him going, oh, 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 get off me, oh, oh. So that was on the recording, and trying not to laugh was so hard. But anyway, so if they are doing that, try to set a recorder down and say, look, you obviously want to communicate with me if you're pushing things over. Could you please tell me your name so I can at least acknowledge you and by name, and then set it down and see if they will talk into that. So Liz says, that's so cool, nurse. I agree. And Sandra says, you're at work on YouTube. Wagner IT says, at nurse, are you getting this documented? That would be a good thing to do. I agree. Does it stop after that, nurse calls? Very interesting. I might try and switch the screen to show the chat. So, oh, sorry. Just trying to get share screen. Okay, so here's our little chat room, and this is what I'm looking at. Where are we? Very interesting. My family have pretty much disowned me. That's sad. Nurse calls. That happened to me. I didn't go to see someone that was dying because I don't handle death well of my loved ones, and this person keeps coming to me in my dreams. Yeah, so that would be, you know, if you're aware that they're coming to you and that they are on the other side, that would be obvious that it's a visitation. It's quite okay with visitation dreams to talk to them and ask them things. So don't be afraid. They're not going to hurt you. They really can't, you know, do anything in a dream. In fact, this is something that's interesting too. because I've actually asked a few spirits. Now, Tracy, one day there, and I've got it recorded in that one which talks about that, you know, is Zozo real video and my experience with Eagle or what have you. And in that particular video, I've caught them picking Tracy up and slamming her down, hitting the ground, and you can actually hear the thud when she hits the ground. And that was just awful to see. These were like, if you want to call them demons or negative spirits, that's what they were. And they were hurting her. But then after, she went away, but then she came back, and I said, "Are you okay?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "Were you hurt?" And she said, "No, I don't get hurt anymore." So obviously with spirit, they don't have sustained injuries like we would if that were to be done to us. So that's the interesting thing about spirits. And, you know, because I had to ask that particular question because it was quite confronting. So going back to this particular thing about not handling death well, it would be really hard. I mean, even being a nurse in that particular position and not being able to handle death, that would be challenging. And maybe that's part of your calling, is to identify with it, you know, to be like a peacemaker towards others who are going through that experience. But I think I know what you mean. It's always different when it's one of your own. No matter what, it's just knowing that you're no longer going to see that physical form, you know, that. So this is the thing, when they're in spirit, they don't have to make an appointment to come and see you or call you up and say, "Look, I'm on my way over," or anything like that. The only thing is you can't always, you know, well, you can't anymore just jump in your car and go over and have a coffee and biscuits or something with them and a chat. You can chat with them, but it's not the same. It's not. And realistically, being in spirit and being in a physical form, that's our limitation. That's our biggest restriction. And I really think that this is a way people can find peace if they're reaching out to the paranormal and stuff like that. And you think about people who are watching channels like Wagner ITC, Marley Paranormal, you know, these people that are watching you, and probably myself and Order, all have something where they're wanting to see real proof. Well, let's face it. It's those, and I'll just say it, those that are faking their evidence and, you know, putting overlay voices and whatever, they're the ones we have to really stop from, you know, or they should title their videos for entertainment only, because that's really frustrating when you've got real evidence, like we said earlier, and then you've got these people who are, you know, reaching out for that in the hope that they might have lost someone recently. And it's hard. It's a really hard thing. Everyone deals with death in so many different ways. It's amazing. And I think it's a lot to do with, you know, our bringing up and our own personal experience. You know, those who have had a visitation or a dream of a loved one, they seem a lot more peaceful afterwards. I don't know whether you've noticed that, but they seem to have like a mellowness about, they're okay, you know. But sometimes we can also be responsible for conjuring up images in our mind. If we're worried about our loved ones or feeling some type of guilt or regret that we didn't make peace with them, we might actually dream of them being upset or crying or, you know, that type of thing. And that's not per se that spirit. because from what I've heard from a lot of spirits is they have this incredible clarity that once they've crossed, everything's so much clearer, you know, and I think it must be that our man-made bodies, if you want to put it man-made, our physical bodies must hold so much grounding, you know, attitude. The attitude is just when we've got all these different ideas about things. I mean, we can surmise, we can say that this is what's what and so on, but to have pure clarity, can you imagine what that must be like? And you've got these spirits that are trying to also deal with that because they weren't ready. They weren't ready. And I feel that's where we've got a lot of spirits saying, can you help me? Because they weren't ready. And I feel it's going back again to facing mortality. How many of us right now watching this video are ready? Are we going to be in a situation where we're going to be one of these souls that are going to somebody who is using a spirit box, or, you know, asking if anyone's around, do they want to communicate? And they say, do you need help? And you say, yes. And you get your hopes up thinking, oh, they're going to help me. And that's it. They don't help you. They just ask if you need help. And that's another thing too, when people are saying to spirits, do you need help in crossing over? I really think it should be up to the spirit to ask you. And let's face it, we can never be absolutely 100% sure that we are helping those spirits cross over, because we don't see what they see. They are seeing things through spirit eyes, and we don't have those eyes yet to see what they see. And so if they're seeing angels coming towards them, or as they say, above every single one of us, from the spirits I've spoken to, I say, how did you find me? Like, how did, you know, because that always intrigued me. Of all the people in the world, and, you know, they seem to sort of like go to certain people who have the ability to see them or to hear them or communicating, and they say we go towards their light, and everyone has a light that seems to emit above them. Like, I wouldn't say, you know, the way they described as being like a torch, but it is a light. It's a life force light. And as we are like communicating with those in the other side, they say it becomes more intense. That light becomes a lot stronger. So it's like a moth to a flame, probably, you know, or a moth to a light bulb. So if that's the case, then I think it's really important, number one, that we all take a look at ourselves and ask, are we ready? If something happened right now, am I going to be ready? Am I going to know what to do? If there are people who are saying, do you need help in crossing over? And you're not helping, or you're not getting validation that you have helped, then don't offer. Don't offer. I really feel like that can be tormenting. That's probably where a lot of people, you know, like think of Huff, for example. There may have been some occasions where he did get attacked because the fact that he was abusing that trust, in saying, do you need help in crossing over? And, you know, because you can't see, and I mean, I've done it. I've had recording where they've come to me and they've said, can you help me? And I'm like, how do I help you? You know, the only thing I can do is like ask angels to come forward, and you tell me when you see those angels, you know, like angels from heaven, or you know, from where God is. You tell me when you see them, so that way you're safe. And usually they'll say, I see my family, or I see my friends. And then they go off with them. And I've had that kind of a, experience, but I can't say 100% that if I was to say to every single spirit, do you need help in crossing over, that I'm going to be able to do that for them, because we don't know where we're sending them. And that's another scary thing. So I think probably one thing we can all do as a result of this live stream, if anything, is probably try to make some peace with our existence, so that we have contacted our, connected with our guides and our angels, and asking them, when that time comes, please step forward and tell me you're here with me, so that I know I'm going to be safe in going over. But more importantly, if you have an upset situation with a loved one and you've got a falling out over something pitiful, regardless of who's at fault, try to make peace, because you just don't know how long you've got. You don't know whether you could be here 1 minute, you blink your eye, you're gone. And the same for that other person. And it could be something so trivial and so petty. And misunderstandings are very possible. Everyone has misunderstandings. We can assume something, of somebody, like some of the people who obviously, thumbs down my channel, they may have a dislike towards the type of position that I hold with what I do, but not necessarily have had anything with me to know anything about how I do my readings and so on. But that holds a lot of criticism. A lot of people, even if it's, people you associate with, they will, treat you with contempt because of the fact that you're associating with someone they dislike or someone they've got a gripe against. And because of that, they tar you with the same brush. And that's pretty sad too, because we're all connected universally. We're all linked in some way. Now, going back to the chat, Crimson Angel Paranormal says, all I have is my grandmother. And that's so sad. But you know what? I really believe that you don't just have your grandmother, because even if you may have a physical presence of a grandmother here, you've got loved ones who have crossed over. They do visit. It's not that you're always alone. And I like to refer to that Footprints in the Sand poem, where that man was walking down the beach and he says, in all the happy times of my life, there's 2 sets of footprints. And yet in the most hardest times of my life, when I look back, I can see only 1 set of footprints. And they took that to be, because this was a particular dream a person had. And whether it's a real dream or not, I would like to think it's a nice real dream, because it's so beautifully written. But this was a time where he said he was dreaming he was walking along the beach with Jesus, and he said, why weren't you there in the hardest times when I needed you the most? And the reply was, that's when I carried you. And I really do believe that our loved ones do carry us from time to time. They watch over us. They give us encouragement when we could be at our lowest. And have you ever wondered where we get that extra bit of energy, that extra push to do something or to reach out? So it's not just a case of that's it. Our loved ones are there. And I agree, grandmothers are wonderful. I wish I was a grandmother. My daughters are, all but one grown up and still not a grandmother. Everyone around me at my age is a grandmother. So, damn it. Anyway, yes, it is sad. So then I'm sorry, Dave, my youngest sister doesn't talk to me since a fight we had a few years back. And even if it's, I mean, a lot of times fights that have happened so many years ago, we sort of forget the, you know, like we might still hold a grudge or that type of thing. But if you really think about it, you probably think, I've grown more since that time, you know, and it was something trivial. But it's so sad that when trivial things keep people apart. It could be a misunderstanding. It could be someone who was stirring up trouble, running to one person saying they said this or they said that, and putting these inferences into their mind, which stir the pot. You know, that's really sad when you've got people like that. And unfortunately in life, we're always going to encounter people like that. So I agree. Grandmothers are wonderful, and so are grandfathers, definitely. Nurse calls says, Marley, yes, it stops after I acknowledge that spirit, and I get huffy when I have to bend down, pick up the chart, and put it back together. I wonder if they're doing it so they can get you to bend down. There are some spirits that will do that. They, especially if you're a nice looking nurse, probably. Just a thought. Crimson Angel Paranormal, thank you everyone. That means a lot. You guys are my family. Oh, what a sweetheart. It's them that's missing out. Absolutely, Tara. And this is to Crimson Angel. And then we've got, I'm that younger brother that embarrassed, but you love anyway. How sweet. Now, what have we got here? Here, I've skipped up. No. Go back. Oh, happy birthday, Kim. Okay, so this must be in response to the recording where Nurse Call says, Karen, no, I haven't tried that because I work 11 to 7 a.m. shifts and always have a PTS who come and sit at my nursing station talking to me, and I don't want to freak them out. I'm going to bring my recorder to work. Even if it's just a mobile phone, most mobile phones these days have those recorders in them. So I would actually recommend just use your phone. It's the least, you know, obvious thing. And, you know, just put it down and say, if you could tell me your name, that would be wonderful so I can identify with you by name because, you know, you might know my name. So ask them if they know your name and if they could say it so you can build a respect for each other. And a lot of times they'll do that because they want to have a respectful friendship. So that's what I find. You know, if you've got a spirit touching you or trying to get your attention in some way, it's because they want to connect with you. So if they're that interested in connecting, they're going to talk to you. So let's have a look at what else we have here. Thank you, Marley. Cried thinking of her growing so fast. Oh, this must be. Yes, time goes very quickly. And I don't know whether it's because I'm getting on, but my goodness, the years fly. And it's like, well, I do usually 11 hours, sometimes up to 16, depending on where my bookings are. But even that time, it's like, where does it go? Where does all this time go? And when we look back at that earlier comment that was in the chat about someone who was, I can't think it was who was it? I think it was, oh goodness, I've forgotten. I've had a blank. When they said about in the Bible days that there was people living to the age of 300, and then we got off Google that Noah was over 900 when he died. And you think about the calendar changes and everything like that. So it makes you wonder with the calendar, because it is man-made to some extent. It'd be interesting. Actually, I might ask Google. So I'll just sort of like stop this so we can see. Hey, Google, what calendar did they use in the Bible days?
Sorry, I don't know how to help with that yet.
All right. Hey, Google, when did the calendar become?
I wasn't able
God,
to verify your
how can I
voice,
put it?
so give it another try.
Okay.
Or you can retrain the voice model. Just go to the Google Home app.
Hey, Google, when was the calendar invented?
1582.
1582.
According to Wikipedia, the resultant Julian calendar remained in almost universal use in Europe until 1582.
1582. So before that, in the Bible days, what were they using as a calendar? You know, but when you think about our calendar, because it is man-made, and I'm sure there's something technical around it, you know, there's got to be, but I don't feel my age. I don't feel as old as I am. Well, one, I don't go in the sun. That's number one. I do not go in the sun. So I substitute by taking vitamin B, but I don't go in the sun at all. I think that's probably helped me, because even when I was a young girl, my mother had this thing about put heaps of sunscreen on, put sunblock all over you. I mean, I would go out with a thick layer of sunblock over my skin, and I would be glowing from this sunblock. But when I think about, you know, as a kid, I was like, "Oh, Mum, I've got it on." She said, "No, you go back in, you put it on, or you're not going out of this house." So I would basically lather myself and walk down the street scraping off this, you know, but it obviously had sunk in by then, and having lots of sunblock when I go out and wearing hats and stuff like that. So it helped me probably not to get lines and wrinkles and so on. I mean, look, you know, I'm sure they're going to happen, but it's not something that, you know, I don't know. Maybe in those days, half it, like 6 months was probably a year to them, or 3 months. Who knows? But, you know, as it said, it was 1582, I think it said, when the calendar was originated. So there we go. Let's have a look. I'm going to go back to our application of the chat window. So it is How Time Passes. Happy birthday to Kim. My baby nephew is in his 20s and married. Oh, bless him. That's so sweet. It's hard for nurses to see their loved ones dying because we know what their body is going through. Yeah, my grandmother was actually a nurse, and I think when she was on her deathbed, she at one point got really fearful, and she was very thirsty. Her lips were dry, so I put some Vaseline over her lips, like, you know, the lip balm, and she was indicating she was thirsty, and her voice was going. So her she had that death rattle sound that is very common, like they're gurgling, and I think she was fearful of the fact that she knew what was going to happen with her body. But then once she got past thinking of her body and thinking of, I'm going to be seeing paradise. That was one thing she used to say, I'm going to paradise. And at one point, my auntie said to her, Mum, where are you? Do you know where you are? Meaning she's in hospital. And she said, I'm in paradise. And we turned And because she indicated towards a whiteboard, and the whiteboard was right in front of the actual bed, the end of the foot of her bed. And on the whiteboard were names of some of the patients. And you wouldn't believe it, it had J. Christ on the board. And we all turned and we looked at it, because my grandmother was quite religious, very, she would read a passage from the Bible every single night before going to bed. She loved the Bible and the Old Testament and the New Testament she had, and she would look at that every single night. And so anyway, we looked over at this board, and there's J. Christ, which is not a common name. To see J and then Christ written on a whiteboard in a hospital. And when she was being wheeled to that room where she died, which was very dimly lit and everything, that board we looked at again, and the name wasn't there. It had been wiped off, and we never saw anybody wipe that name off. So interesting. I just thought I'd share that tidbit with you, but that would be pretty confronting, I agree, especially knowing what a person goes through. It's hard for everyone whose loved ones pass away because they see their loved ones being sick or wounded. Yeah, I can relate. I saw a photo of my ex's mother, and she's not good. I was really heartbroken to see her like that, because she was always out. She was always doing things, a really beautiful person. And to see her so aged, because it seems to, the body seems to look like it's aged, and they get that pale skin or the graying complexion. But what's amazing, I will say one thing, you've probably seen this, nurse calls. My grandfather, on my stepfather's side, he had so many wrinkles, like that it was a joke in the family, and he actually started the joke saying, "I don't have wrinkles, my face just cracked." So we would call him cracked face, but like it was done in an innocent way, because that was his joke. It wasn't something we said. But when he died, it was as though all his wrinkles, all his lines completely vanished. It was like someone had taken something and just smoothed out his complexion. And that's amazing, to think that even those that are quite old and so on, who may be, very aged and everything, it's like their skin is translucent. It becomes incredible, almost, like there's no lines. So I think that must be all the stress leaving the body. That's how I look at it, or how I like to look at it anyway. But it's, what makes me angry sometimes is thinking that why does God let, and I probably shouldn't say that, but I'm going to put it out. Why does God let people get ill to die? Why do they sometimes have to suffer? Even good people, why do they have to suffer? I guess we'll never know the real answer. I've just turned the fan on, by the way. I think we will never really know that answer, because sometimes if the soul is ready, then it's going to want to escape that body, and probably that's when the body wants to, it's got no choice but to shut down in order for that soul to exit if you want to put it that way. Who knows? Okay, so no kids, Smiley. I don't have that superpower. Irish Stevo agreed. Same with that hard thing with entertainment only, if that's what it is. This is going back to, you know, people using things that are dodgy. We nurses also deal with grief, I would assume. Grief from those who are left behind. Grief, sorry, yes. That would be really hard because, you know, I take my hat off to nurses and doctors and those in those professions who are there to save lives. And how hard would it be even to make that decision of, you know, they're not going to be able to do anything if we save them. But then on that note, I reflect on the time when my grandmother went in. She had a heart attack, and I'll never forget, we were at my mother's place and I was, you know, trying to hook up her computer because she had problems with it. So, of course, by hooking it up back then, the computer ran through the phone line, as you know. So whilst you're on the internet, no one can phone through. And there was a phone call trying to be reached to us about my grandmother going into hospital because she had a heart attack. And apparently in the ambulance, they had to revive her. When they got to the hospital, they had to revive her. And she was like 10 times being revived. It got to the point the doctors came out and they said to us, if we keep trying to revive her, she's going to end up being a vegetable because, you know, we've tried to insert a catheter and to open the artery and stuff like that. Not the catheter. Is it the catheter that they put in? No, sorry. The catheter is something else. The one they put in that's like a balloon that goes into the artery through the leg, the main leg artery, and it expands and opens up the artery so the blood flows to the heart properly. I can't remember the name. I think it's that. I'm probably wrong. But anyway, they put that in. As soon as they tried putting that in, she went. So they had to take it out, try to revive her, and they were like giving her those electrical shocks, you know, to get her heart going and everything. And honestly, she was black, completely black around the chest, right up to the throat. And I kept saying, no, do not give up. I want you to keep bringing her back. She's not going to be a vegetable. And it was amazing because the doctors, they were expecting her to be a vegetable or paralyzed or, you know, that type of thing. And she wasn't. She was walking without assistance. She only had like a tiny scar on her heart. And she lived an extra 12, 13 years after that. And then she died in her sleep, basically, at the hospital. My grandfather, he was in a 3-stage coma, hit his head, and there was fluid on the brain, and that caused him to go into a coma. Now, he was a jokester, my grandfather, always putting on the act that he's passed out or he's had a heart attack. And it got to the point we didn't believe him. And he was lying literally on the kitchen floor. And we thought he was pulling another prank. And this is why, be careful of pranking people, because after a while they won't believe you. And he was lying on the kitchen floor. So we were stepping over him, going and making cups of tea and everything. And it's like, he'd get up in a minute, But it got to the point where we thought, he's not moving. He's taking this a bit far. And it turned out, we said, look, we're going to get the ambulance if you don't get up, and we're calling the ambulance now. And we were like calm as anything. But it turned out he was in a 3-stage coma. And he came out of it. But in that time, the doctors were asking my grandmother if she would sign papers to, allow them to use his organs, for transplant to other patients, because they said he wasn't going to live. And he was a vegetable, blah, blah, blah. He had the thing where they put in the throat to breathe kind of thing, the trachea. And it got to a point where I said, no, we need people to pray over him. And I was only a kid at the time. I must have been about 7 or something. And I knew we had to pray over him. And I'll tell you something about my grandfather. He was a mongrel. He used to beat my grandmother so bad. And I was terrified of him as a child. But there was one thing that he did for me when I was a little girl. He walked around the side with me, outside of the house, and he knelt down and he said to me, do you accept Jesus as your saviour? And I said, yes. And he said, always say, Jesus Christ is my saviour. His blood is over me. And that was as a little girl. And I always remembered that. And even with all the things that he did, he terrorized the family. He threw my mother out when she was pregnant with me. And then, with the change of heart, he took her back in and everything. But he was a very forceful, abusive male. And my grandmother tried to get away from him. He would find her, and she ended up in hospital that many times. I mean, she was only like 5 foot. He was 6.5 foot in height, near 7 foot high. He was a very, very tall man, and he used to be a street fighter. So you can imagine the power that he had. He used to bash people up, and he was one of the, here's my grandmother, from a very nice family, a nice Catholic family, and she rebelled, and she could have married, the gentleman who has Bush's Meats, which is a big company, the original founder, and she ends up with my grandfather because she rebelled, because she wanted to get away from the home because it was strict and everything. So the hell that she went through all her life, basically, with this man, and here I am at the hospital saying, don't give up on him. You've got to get people to pray over him. So they did. I think probably, we'll do this for the little kid to shut her up. So they get these minister from his church and a minister from my grandmother's church, because they went to 2 different churches, and they prayed over him. And one of them, they said, well, I don't think he's going to live. And I said, well, how can you say that you believe in God if you've got no faith that he's not going to live? And as a kid, I was very confronting with these questions. How can they say, that he's going to die, and don't expect him to come out of it if they've just prayed over him? And the other one says, with God, anything is possible. And that was my grandmother's minister, Mr. Hamilton. I remember, oh my goodness, yeah, his name was Mr. Hamilton, and that was a throwback for me. So anyway, I did that, and the next day my mother was beside him, and she was feeling remorse, and here he is lying there, trachea in his throat, nurse coming in, moving his legs type of thing to move the muscles or whatever, and then he moved his finger. And my mum said to the nurse, he's just moved his finger. And the nurse said, oh no, that's his body shutting down, the nerves type of thing. She said, Dad, if you can hear me, move your finger again. And he did. And then he opened his eyes a few minutes later, and a tear rolled out, and he said, God bless you. And I was there and I saw this and I was amazed. Here they were saying that he was, you know, pretty much there being kept alive on this machine only for parts. And would my grandmother sign this thing? And he came out of it. And the things that he told, he said he could feel the doctors touching him, saying, oh, well, you know, we could use his lungs. Their lungs are good. We can use his eyes. And he said he even felt them opening his eyes, looking at his eyes, shining a light in his eyes to see if the pupils, you know, because they're saying they're not dilating or they're not sure, whatever they are. And he said that they were saying that what they were going to do with his body. And he could hear them saying to my grandmother, can you sign the papers? And she kept saying, I can't, I just can't do it yet. And then he said to me, thank you for praying. And I didn't particularly pray there. I prayed at home. But he said, thank you for praying. And then later, when he got home, he favored one leg. Like, you know, as he walked, he was like, he had one leg that, you know, he just would drag a bit. Sounds like, you know, Frankenstein. But he was okay. But he ended up dying of cancer, which ate through him badly, very rapid death. But this is the thing, some of them, you can't just say, that's it. You know, these are two people in my family who were both given up to be, you know, they were going to be vegetables if they did live. And they both lived many, many years later. You know, my grandmother, 13 years after she had these 10 heart attacks. And my grandfather, he lived after a 3-stage coma where they said that he was only, you know, being kept alive by a machine, basically. And he lived another 10 or 15 years and ended up being taken with cancer. So you can't, you know, I don't know, that's a thing. And that's a scary thing too, when you think about these poor families who are faced with that option and being told, you know, that if they, you know, if they let their loved one live, that they're going to be this way. And then I've got this situation from my own experience. And I think if that ever was me, obviously there's something in the family. Maybe this could be, you know, passed down. Who knows? If my kids said, okay, let her go, then would that be considered murder? You know, with the hospital, if that, there's a lot of questions that can be raised also. I'm going to go back to these, but this is, you know, all good for conversation topics. So we nurses also deal with grief from those who are left behind, and that would be terrible, especially with people yelling and abusing you because they feel like there wasn't enough done or what have you. That I couldn't deal with that. So my hats go off to you people in nursing and doctors fields, because it's a job I think is very admirable. The things that you do for people, it's just incredible. So you've got my vote. Nurse Cause says, Sandra, absolutely yes, but from my experience, it's harder because we know medically what is going on with the kidneys shutting down, edema building up in the tissues, a code blue, we, you, and I as. Marley says, for sure, I've been a father figure, and while it's not always easy, it's very rewarding. So this might be another topic altogether. And we have Sandra, you and I and other nurses know what is going on with the body. So we can give meaning to what we see. Non-medical people cannot, and that's right. But that's another thing again where I say, don't just give up and think that's it, because you just don't. I mean, we don't know exactly when we're going to die. People can get an estimate, obviously. You know, that's like with my other half, my ex. He's gone over to see his mother and spend time with her, because they, first of all, they said 18 months, and now it's to the point where they're saying she might not, you know, have weeks left. And it's really heartbreaking, and you just don't know. You just don't know. I know he's going to be devastated, and the only thing that, you know, people can do is be there for their loved ones and so on, and try to be empathetic towards people who are going through this, struggling. Some people might, you know, yell at nurses and doctors and everything because they're trying to deal with it, deal with something, and it's like also probably seeing or facing their own mortality in some way. You know, some people might have guilt, which is causing them to do that. So in that case, it might be that they just need to vent, and the first one that's there that is not directly connected to them is easier to be the target, because, you know, they seem to expect that you'll just be like that emotional sink where they can dump everything. And so I couldn't imagine. I really couldn't. But I really think our nurses and doctors deserve a lot of respect. But it was so hard, so hard. A moth to a computer screen. Yeah. It's what it's like. So, Sandra, pardon my grammar, for I am Dutch. Lekker jongen, lekker meisje. I know that. That means nice lady or nice girl. Lekker jongen, that's nice boy, I think, in Dutch. Okay, so we've got, thank you, Karen. This is a great topic. I'm glad, you know, I think we need to talk about these things, even if it's not just through the live stream type of thing, but it's going to get people talking out there. It's going to get people discussing this with their loved ones about, you know, possibly, all right, this is what I would like done, you know, so that you don't have to worry about this. I mean, my daughters couldn't believe it when I went out and I purchased a burial space for my ashes, because I'm going to be cremated. And I purchased a space right next to my mother's. And I've got my grandfather and my grandmother, and then I've got space for my auntie and uncles on side. So it's sort of like a family, you know, garden, if you want to put it that way. And my daughters were like, but you're not dead. And I said, listen, death is a part of life. And the last thing I want burdening you is, where am I going to put mum? Or what am I going to do with mum? Because I'm not going to need this body when I die. That's one thing's for sure. Okay, Chris, you want to say something? I've got Chris around. He's just turning up things in here. He turned up the light as I'm talking. All right. Okay, so let's go on. My grandfathers and one of my friends often visit. That's beautiful, Marley. Or grandfathers, not grandfathers. Okay. How can people visit if there is reincarnation? And I asked Chris and Soella about this, and I can only tell you what I was told. But what they basically said to me is this: we don't fully reincarnate because we are energy. I'll just turn that off there. Because we're energy, apparently what happens is as the soul is coming down to enter the fetus, it can cross paths with many other souls out there, which means it's crossing path with an energy. And what happens when you've got like a nucleus, for example, and you've got another nucleus that hits it? Usually part of that will attach to that particular nucleus. That's how I look at it. But they said that with the energy, because it's dispersed energy, but it's always around, a part of that energy gathers or gets crossed with that one that's going to that fetus. So what they said to me made sense to me, because you think about the amount of children that have recall of past lives. They will say, I used to have this mummy and daddy, or I used to be in an aeroplane and fight people, and I got shot in all these other things. They will remember like little pieces of memory. So from what I was told, what happens is a part of that memory is collected as that energy is going, or that spirit is going to the fetus. So they're not taking the whole of that soul and placing another soul in another body. They're taking like a portion of that memory. And after a while, that memory or that soul, as it's coming towards that fetus, could be interacting or passing through other energy, other souls, and collecting a snippet of each of those memories. And then what happens eventually, that energy is dispersed and like a magnet drawn back to the original soul, which means that technically that the child, as it grows, has also outgrown those other energies that it's attracted in its coming to be, so to speak, if that makes sense to you. That's how it was described to me. Like the soul coming down, and there's other soul like crossing, and it may take a portion or attach some of that energy to it. And as it goes in, these little recalls happen. But then after a while, that main soul overtakes it, and that other energy is dispersed back and goes back to those original souls. So that made sense to me, the way they described it, because I was under the impression that, we technically live this life, we come back and we do it all over again, and until heaven is ready. And with each life, we've got these certain lessons. And they said we do have lessons anyway. Every life has lessons. The first life, you're basically taking your baby steps, and you've got a lot of loved ones, and you've got angels behind you trying to prevent you from falling. But then after a while, you learn to walk alone. You learn to be independent, if that makes sense to you. So they will then be there like a parent behind a kid riding their bike for the first time, just enough to grab hold of that seat if there is anything that's going off the rails. But sometimes they won't be able to grab it, which means then you could fall and hurt yourself. So not that we won't make mistakes or anything like that, but that's how it's described to me, that we learn things. And apparently those in their first life who are fresh souls with no other souls that have been linked or connected with them on their journey to that body, they only have to learn to walk in this life, to be here, to be a part of things, and to bring that fresh outlook, that innocence to life. And then as we have ones that, they go off and then they cross paths with other ones, and part of that soul is then having to learn something through that until it has progressed. So that's how it was explained to me. I don't know whether it makes sense to you, but it made sense to me, and that's how, I stick to what they told me. Okay, so some of the comments is, the last time I saw my grandmother, this is Marley, Marley Paranormal. The last time I saw my grandmother, I looked in her eyes and told her I would see her later, knowing I would never see her again. Her eyes searching my face haunts me to this day, 4 years later. Oh, how heartbreaking. I know that look. I know that look. I think many people know that look you've just described. But I think given the fact that you are trying to search the paranormal now and get an understanding of it, the beauty is that you know that she can visit you. And I don't know whether you heard him. Chris, can you come and talk? I don't know whether you can hear him. Try turning that up a bit. Keep talking. He stopped. Okay, so yeah, that look where they're like, you know, looking over your face kind of thing. It's like I think I know what you're saying. It's like they're wondering, really, you know, or it's like that distant kind of, I know the look, that description. That sort of like hit me because I've seen it. But as I said, I really feel that there's a reason that a lot of people are turning to the paranormal, turning to want to understand the paranormal. And it's mainly because of these experiences, wanting to know and wanting to validate that there is an existence beyond this realm. And there really is. Honestly, as I said, I'll play you again. Just, I think it's amazing because sometimes you can get evidence and sometimes you can get, you know, stuff that. Okay, so I'll see if I can get that on here. I'm getting a lot of reflection back here. Oh, that might be better. About there. Not really good. Let me see if I can change the lighting on it. That might help. Okay, we'll try this. Hang on. I'm trying to find a good, where we go. Oh, that looks a bit clearer. Is it? I don't know. I don't know whether it's a clearer. Yeah, it's actually a face right up against my screen, and you can see him turning, and it looks like he's waving. So I was like half asleep. I can't believe that I actually got that good evidence in my bedroom. But then I think, who is this man? He didn't say anything, so I'll try and... Okay, might try it like that. Okay, where are we? See his face? I'll try it again. That's his face, look. Right there, the eyes turning. Looks like waving. Say one more time. Looking right at me, look. Wow. Right in there. So it was, you know, the funny thing is you think people go traveling sometimes across the world to search places, and this is in my room, this is in my home, so you don't have to go far. So let me have a look here, and we'll go back to our screen. Okay, so I'm sorry this is taking so long, but I really think it's something we do need to talk about. And I've gone past. This is what I mean with this. It's hard when the person can't talk and it's about to pass and is scared. Yeah, it's so true. Stop it. The eyes, they are the windows to the soul. That's absolutely so true. You notice when the person actually goes and their eyes go very, very white, milky. They say that's because of the well, the nurses in the chat would know that that's like when they begin to stop having function. I don't know whether it's like to do with the nerves or with the blood flow or something like that, but it stops, and it's like they just go a milky color, milky white. Thank you, Mary, for the happy birthday. Thank you. So yeah, that it is my grandmother. She was scared, but the peace was there. There was definite peace. Marley, when that happens, I lean in and tell the patient, I'm here for you. Don't be scared. I'm right here for you. I've seen tears come down their face because they know their time is crying. Coming. That would be, what a beautiful nurse you are to do that. And that's what I mean. We need to show more appreciation to the nurses out there. It must be hard to being a nurse or a doctor and having a patient that you know is about to die, and they might not have family there, especially those that are on their own. And you're trying to comfort not only the bereaved, but the ones that are dying as well, because many people, they don't know what to say to a person who is dying, or they just feel like just sitting there, or, you know, do we talk to them if they're looking unconscious or something? Should we wake them? Should we try to interact? And it's amazing how many people, they seem to like put the brakes on and they hesitate, like, am I doing the right thing? You know, how do I talk to them? What do I say? And this is why I think that death and talking about death should not be taboo. It should be something that we openly can talk about, so we know that when that time comes, we could say to that person, you know, okay, you know, like, you're okay now, and so on. But when that time comes, would you be comfortable talking about what you're feeling? I mean, with me, I want to share as much as I can with people in the fact of my own personal experience. That's the only reason for creating a YouTube channel to begin with, was because I wanted to show my proof of my experiences as much as I could encapsulate with a camera or a recorder and share that with others. You know, it wasn't about, you know, the numbers or anything like that. It wasn't it wasn't that important. That sometimes it's important because you think, okay, that reflects on how many people are interested or how many people aren't interested, and you'll always have your cronies that go in there and they, you know, thumbs down things because they think it's going to upset you and hurt you, and sometimes it does. Yeah, I mean, you're only human, and I'm sure that they would feel the same if someone did that to them. But in all, you know, respect, you give a person a chance. There are things that we need to talk about. There are things that we have to face. It's part of life. Birth is part of life, and so is that final exit. You know, we are in that womb for 9 months, and sometimes that can be a scary thing for a person because they know that, you know, I'm going to go through a lot of pain giving birth to this, but the rewards are incredible. And that's how I've spoken with some of my clients who are going through that grieving process. I, you know, like a few times I've been asked to go and give talks at funerals of people I don't even know. And so I think having that, you know, trying to give examples makes it a little easier for people to understand, you know, like the birth process as a baby. You do go through like a, you know, you're being squeezed through this tunnel, basically coming into a new world from the world you knew, that you felt secure in. And there's the unknown. And when you think about our transition to spirit, it's the other way. It's like a reverse role. It's like all of a sudden we are no longer entering the body, we're exiting the body, as in our body this time. And so it's a scary thing, and sometimes it's not without pain. As I said, that's the reason I created my channel, was to bring awareness to the afterlife in a way that's positive, and not in a negative way, not in one that, oh, you've got to be terrified, or look how scary this is, and so on. It's what I want is to be able to show the beauty in the afterlife and the visitations and so on. And when I go, I want to be able to, up until as much as I can communicate, I want to be able to tell my family what I see, what I feel going on. And I don't want them to be scared of it. And I've actually said this to them, that this is something that will happen one day. And as a parent, sometimes we say things like, you know, when our kids play up and they talk back, one day when I'm on the other side, you're going to be thinking about this, you know. And then they say, don't talk about that, you know. And then you realize these are some things that we keep pushing. And this is amazing when you think about, we keep avoiding the topic of death. People say, oh, you're morbid talking about death, or you're morbid, you know, talking about funeral arrangements and everything. You're not even dead yet, and stuff like that. And this is the most real you can be in life, is talking about what to do. When that day comes, the last thing you want those left behind trying to deal and do things the way you would have wanted them done. I mean, let me put it this way. Many spirits that I've spoken with have said, I don't care what they do with my body. I don't need it anymore. You know, let them cut it up and give it away to different people and stuff like that. And these are some of the like direct responses I've had, where they're saying, let them just, you know, use it for research, or, you know, give it to other people. I don't need it anymore. I don't want it anymore. And then you've got ones that are like, where's my body? I need to be buried. You know, they walking past my body. They're not even searching. They're not even looking. You know, these are the ones that, you know, one guy He actually came through and he said, they keep walking past my body and I'm in the pumpkin patch. And I said, where are you from? And he said, America. And I said, well, I can't help you. And he said, but my bones are there. My bones are there. So he was desperate in wanting his bones buried. He wanted to have his body, what was left of it, given a resting place. So those that think, when they come across bones of, animals and stuff like that, I wonder if, because we're all somehow connected spiritually. We all have a nervous system. Just like a tree has roots, we have nerves. And those roots are the tree's nerves, if you want to put it that way. So they're living. There's a living connection with all life. And everything's energy. Everything is energy. I know I'm going around in circles, so I'm going to move on. Marley Paranormal. Yeah, I've read that. It haunts me 4 years later. Before my dad died, he broke his shoulder when he turned himself on his deathbed. Oh, my God. Unpronounceable names. I'm so, so sorry to hear that. It's so sad. The thing is, when you think about it, and life is so cruel sometimes, isn't it? It's how do you deal with things like that? That would be hard. I remember when my mother passed, she actually collapsed in the bathroom, and when they were trying to get her out of the bathroom, because it was like a narrow area, they had broken her arm trying to get her out of there so that they could try to do resuscitation. But it didn't work. So that's sad to hear about your dad. If there's not enough that they go through, and then to have that, I'm lost for words on that. Thank you, Bumblebee, for coming to the live stream. Oh, this shunt, that's right. That's what it's called. That's the thing they put to open up the artery. Thank you for correcting me. The catheter. Okay. I know what the catheter is, but I didn't mean to use it in that term. But I knew it was something that went into the body. Okay. Bumblebee, Mrs. Magnitude, they're waiting on the results. They haven't yet got those. Oh, he came in your dream to visit. How beautiful. And light. Isn't that an amazing light that they generate? Unpronounceable names. That is the most purest of white. And it's incredible. The energy that light emits is amazing. I'm so glad that you got to see him in your dream. But it may have just been a visitation. Sometimes if we have dreams of those that have passed over, this is another way of knowing whether it was a dream or a visitation. With visitants, they're unlike dreams. With many dreams, you can forget about them. They seem to sort of like fade away in the memory. But a visitation, you can recall in detail many, many years later. So that is, that's another way of knowing that you've had a visitation. Okay. I feel a lot of guilt over that. I don't feel you should feel guilty, because it's like you have an opportunity of, in her honor, with what you do, being able to connect with souls. And it's a beautiful thing. Speaking with them and acknowledging them is a really beautiful thing. It's so, so appreciated from the other side. When we have a feeling that someone's around us, we begin thinking of someone out of the blue who has passed over many times. It's because of the fact that they're there. And we're sensing that. I actually had a time when I was doing a reading at a lady's place, and it was so funny. Well, it wasn't funny, but as I was reading for her, I happened to glance past her and saw this lady walking up towards her, and she sort of stood over to the side. She wasn't standing behind her. She was walking up, from the back room, and then came and she stood over near the side of her. And I nodded as to acknowledge, because she was so vivid. She was like a real person. I just thought she was someone in the home that, was coming to listen to the reading. And the lady that I was reading for, she said, it's funny, all of a sudden I'm just thinking of my mum. And the lady that was standing there, she didn't say anything, but she just smiled. And she nodded at the woman I was reading for. And I said, hang on a minute. I said, are you her mum? And the woman that I was reading for, she said, who are you talking to? And I described the woman to her. And she said, you've just described my mother. And she said, what's she wearing? And I told her she was wearing these butterfly shorts with a summer's top. And it was like a normal weather. That's why I didn't take too much attention to the fact that, this is out of the ordinary, because she was wearing that. And I thought, well, obviously when I described that, I'm thinking, well, she must have been buried in that, surely. And she said, my mother always wore those around the house. And she said, her room is just down there, and pointed behind her. And that was incredible for me. That was probably one of my first face-to-face going to someone's home visits, where, I was sort of taken aback by a spirit walking up and doing that. But it wasn't the first time that type of thing happened. The very first time was at my auntie's place, and my uncle, who I've actually mentioned in previous videos, his father came up and started talking to me, telling me that his name, he's got the same name as him and everything like that. And I didn't know my uncle's family. Basically, it wasn't until much later when they got married, then their families began to mingle type of thing. But he had already been gone, long gone, before my auntie was even on the scene dating my uncle. And so I'm describing this man to him, and my uncle was a skeptic, major skeptic. And he said, okay, well, ask him to tell you something only I would know. So before I could even say it, he said, tell him I used to carve ships out of bullet shells. And he said he used to carve ships out of bullet shells. Well, my uncle almost fell off his chair. He said, there is no way you would know that. And he raced down to his room, and I could hear him fumbling around in there. It was like pulling things apart and everything. Came out, and he had these two like air rifle. I don't know whether they were air rifles or, but they were big bullets, but they were obviously cut and shaped into what looked like ships, and they were detailed. And the base of the bullet, which was the round bit at the end, the flat bit, that was what stood the ornament of the ship up. And he said, have you seen these? And he showed my auntie. And she said, where'd you get those? And he said, I've had them for years in my toolbox. He kept in his room, but he had no tools in it. He just had like knickknacks and stuff like that. And he said, did I show you these before? And she said, no, I've never seen them. And she said, oh my God, are they? And he said, yeah. He said, my dad made these. He said, you didn't know what my dad did because he was gone before you came into the picture. And he said, and there's no way you could have told your niece. So he was completely floored by that. So that was alarming. But then having that woman that time, that was incredible because of the fact that I didn't expect that, and I don't think she expected it. But to have her say, as that woman stood beside her, she's saying, you know, all of a sudden I'm thinking about my mum. And she said, I wasn't thinking about her before. And then, you know, to have all that acknowledgement type of thing, that's how I see when people begin to think of somebody who has passed over. Usually that spirit is around them, and it must be either something triggered, like a memory triggered, or a scent, or, you know, something in their head clicks like. And that's why I believe that everyone in some way has the ability to sense things. We have an ability to sense fear. We have an ability to sense excitement, an adrenaline rush, that type of thing. Sometimes we could be, you know, like programming ourselves to have a fear that we don't really need to have. Like if we're going to a doctor or if we're going to a dentist, you know, some people suddenly, just the name of dentist or whatever makes them, you know, freak out. So I really think the same with death. If we can discuss death with our loved ones and just make it something that, you know, it's okay. We're going to go on the other side, and, you know, I'm going to do everything I can to come and communicate with you, and don't be scared. Welcome me, because we're going to be there for you when your time comes, and, you know, and we're going to be welcoming you, and we're going to be helping you. And whatever you do, don't shut them out. You know, don't feel like a fool if you feel like, you know, as an adult, having a bit of a cry and saying, Mum, I love you. Dad, I love you. I miss you. Nana, Pa, you know, whoever it is. Don't feel too proud to say that, because usually they're only a whisper away, and they will hear every time you talk to them. So just keep that in mind. So I'm late for saying it, but goodbye, Sandra. So if you do watch this later, just know that I said goodbye. For a while it may fade, but maybe you needed this for some growth. And who knows, maybe some of this, you know, because I don't know why I felt the need to talk about this topic in particular. There was nothing that I was really thinking about, type of thing, but I just thought, you know, on the spur of the moment, before I do any type of live stream, because I want to try and keep it all topic on subjects, instead of rattling off about other people and, you know, what I think of other YouTubers and everything. Keep it all uniform. And I asked, like, basically I said, okay, guide, help me. What do I talk about tonight? What should we talk about? And just came to me, talk about one's mortality. Are you ready? Are you ready for it? But I think there's a reason for this, and maybe in some way this video will help somebody down the track. Even if no one tonight or today, wherever you are, don't feel that you've got anything out of it except probably something that, you know, could be a topic of discussion with family or something that you might ponder about. I believe everything happens for a reason. I believe we're given ideas or we're given suggestions by spirit on certain topics because it's meant to be delivered. It's meant to be delivered to the right person. So hopefully whoever this reaches is going to help them find comfort in realizing that, you know, you shouldn't just push it aside as a, you know, that's a taboo topic. We don't talk about that. I think it's better to talk about it when everyone's healthy, because it would be easier than to be in that facing it and talking about it, because you won't know what to talk about because you haven't established a topic. And this is something that when my grandmother was alive, I actually said to her, okay, when that time comes, Nana, what do you want me to talk about with you? You know, have you thought about that? And she got thinking and she said, I want you to pray for me. Just pray for me. So I did. I actually, at her bedside, as she was lying there awake at this point, I prayed, because that was my promise to her, that I would pray for her. And I would ask God to watch over her as she takes this step into the new world, and send angels and her loved ones. And the peace that I have in knowing that my mother came for her, that gave me so much. You know, it's like that hope in knowing that there's always that link. There's always that strong connection. No matter whether they're gone from this physical realm, there's a strong connection. Now, another thing, and I'll just add this here, those that say, I used to feel my mother around or my father around or whoever, I used to feel them around all the time, and now I don't. Now I don't feel them as much. Sometimes it's all a part of a healing, because what I've discovered in my own circumstance when I was going through, I mean, I went through a grieving process, losing my dad after finding him, and that was the last thing I wanted to talk about, was losing him, and yet it was inevitable. It happened before I could see him in a physical world per se. And when I was feeling him around, the tears would come. I would be, oh, Dad, I miss you. I'm sorry I didn't get to see you face to face in this world. And it's not the same. It isn't. It isn't the same, because I never knew what it was like to give my dad a hug in this world. I never knew what it was like to smell his cologne, if he wore cologne, that type of thing. It wasn't until after he died and I had his visitation that I was able to have this connection with him. And it's a beautiful one. It's really a beautiful one. He actually said to me over the phone that because of, you know, because when I said to him what I do, he said, well, honey, when I die, if there is such a thing as an afterlife, I'll help prove it for you. And I can honestly say with my hand on my heart that he has, in some way, given me the most incredible spiritual evidence on my channel than I could ever ask for. But the problem is then we face these people that fake videos and everything. So it's pale in comparison to their stuff, because, you know, this is real. And, you know, the ones that fake it, it's more outlandish, it's more extravagant, it's, you know, but oh, it was just incredible. But anyway, you'll be able to see that on the channel. So Mary Callahan says, remember Marley, there's no time in the afterlife. You will see her again, just like you promised. She memorized your face with every ounce of love. Oh my God, that is so beautiful. Mary, you should write that down. Honestly, that is such a beautiful, beautiful expression. I love it. There's crackling noises. I'm sorry. Wagner, not to make any light, I still remember my mum and her being carried out. My dad and his very last breath as he told me he loved me. Haunting at will, don't know how to use it except growth. And that's so true. It's so true. Every person that we have the honor of knowing in this world, even our enemies, those that are going on to the new world, we can all learn something. Empathy, compassion, understanding, and more importantly, not to fear death. Imagine how our loved ones are going to be if we don't fear. Think of it for a minute. If we don't fear death on that day that comes, but we're excited, we're going to see our loved ones. This is a big deal. This is something major. This is wonderful because we're taking that step. And someday we're still going to see everybody in the other side, but we'll still be able to visit. Knowing that is incredible power to us in some way, because think of those people who don't know that. Think of those people out there right now who they don't know anything about the afterlife. You know, they only watch movies and it's all scary and horrible and spirits attack people and stuff like that. But imagine being able to change that for somebody. Being able to be, even if it's a nurse as an example, or someone who has never faced it and they come to see you and you're able to show them there's nothing to fear. It's something that is really a beautiful experience. It's like birth, but in a new way. So I really think that, again, going back to talk about it. Don't make it morbid. Talk about it. Because everyone needs to, at some point, acknowledge it. And we can make it easier on our loved ones if we don't fear it. You know, of course, we probably won't know what we're going to be like until the day comes. You know, I might be a right mess thinking, I don't want to go. I want to be with my kids. I want to stay here. But I will also be looking forward to holding my dad. Because in a physical or spiritual realm, it's very much a physical experience. I can remember my visitation dream of my grandfather and having that out-of-body experience, seeing him as well. And I hugged him and could feel the texture of his jumper. I could feel the solidness of his body as I hugged my grandfather, even though he was a right mongrel in this world before. He was taken aback. I remember in that, you know, visitation where he's like standing back looking at me like, you see me? You know I'm here? Because I said to him, what took you so long to come and see me? And I kid you not, later on in that afternoon, I got a chance to have a nap. And he visited me again. And I said, I didn't think I was going to see you for a long time again. So that's why I gave you such a big hug. So I gave him another hug. And his words in that particular thing was, do you believe in Jesus? And I said, of course I do. And yet this was something he asked me also as a kid. So there you go. Talk about it. Talk about the possibilities, even talk about signs that you would like to give your loved ones when your time comes. Give them something, to say, okay, if you were to ask me when I'm on the other side, what sign in particular you would like me to give you, something that is not through someone else, but a physical experience, something you can experience. Because this is why, like mediums and all that, we can do some part of it, but I really love it when I hear people say they had their own experience. You can't beat that. You really can't beat that. I think it's an incredible thing to have your own real experience, not coming third party, not coming through a spirit box, not coming through, other things or other people, but a personal experience where you cannot shake that as, as a doubt or no, that can't be happening. It's too real not to be happening. And that's something that you should say to your loved ones. Okay, what would you like me to do when I'm a spirit? What would be the sign that would show you that I'm around? And it could be turning on a radio. It could be make a light globe fall. It could be something like, just visit me so I can see you. Or show me a light. Show me the energy orb that you can create as spirit. And the most wonderful thing is that in the afterlife, anything is possible. You have no limitations. You have no worries. You have no stress about, where you're going to get your next meal. You've got no stress about, I've got to get the rent paid or the mortgage paid. All that stress is attached to our physical being, not our spirit. And we have to get past that. Marley says, now I have tears, Mary, but that sounds right. Good point, Bob. I'll try to look at it that way. Bob says, not sure about that, Mary Callahan. It kind of looks like they're not about by distance, but they can only show up at one location at a time. I don't know about that, because if you've ever astral projected, all you have to do is think of a place and you're there. And even with and I'll give you an example, when my grandfather did have that visitation with me, that dream, and I sent a message to my auntie saying, I dreamt of Pa last night, of all the people, it's been years. And I kid you not, my auntie Wendy, who is major skeptic. I mean, most of my family are skeptics anyway. But she then texted me back saying, oh my God, I only just finished telling Craig, her son, that I dreamt of Pa too, her dad. And I said, what was he wearing? Because in my visitation, he was wearing this baby powder blue jumper with a V-neck jumper with a shirt underneath, black pants and black shoes. Now, he wasn't buried in that. And she said to me he was wearing a baby, like a baby blue jumper. She said, but I can't, she said, don't ask me what he was wearing other than that, because all I could remember is this blue jumper. And I said, that's what he was wearing. And I said, and he looked healthy, he looked younger. And she said, he did. He looked younger. And she said, I just said that to Craig, that he looked really well, not like when he had the cancer and everything. He was like skin on bone and everything. He was, you know, he was so healthy. He had meat on his bones, so to speak. What's going on? That was weird. So we're in 2 different locations. We're probably anything up to 2 to 3 hours away from one another. And the same morning, we had the same visitation. So, and look at my dad. He was in Lincolnton, North Carolina, and he came and visited me here in Sydney, Australia. So that is a hell of a lot of, you know, gap. And yet he was able to do that like that. And so this theory also with people saying they can't cross salt water, that is completely wrong. Okay, so let's scroll down. Marley sending you a big hug. What is that? Oh. Okay, let's go. Yeah. Oh, thank you for that. I'm glad that you're learning something. At least I can help in some way. They say the Christ is the King of men. To be honest, I don't mind serving a good guy. Beautiful. An advanced directive of or DNR has to be put in place in order to let a patient die on their own. Okay. Wow. This is such a, honestly, this is such a moving chat room, and I'm so glad that you're all discussing this. It's probably, you know, when you bottle things up and you don't talk about things, I feel that that makes it a little harder to deal with. But, you know, talking about things and knowing that we all go through it in some way, we all encounter this. So we're never really alone. We all have just different experiences, but we're never truly alone. Let me have a look here. Since we started with one man and one woman, reincarnate would be from those 2 to make everyone today. I'm so blessed to have some beautiful people in my chat room. And yes, my dog is in here. He's snoring. Our terrestrial purpose is to nurture positive reincarnated energy, our soul, understanding that negative energy must be kept in check. We're connected to each other here because we have a similar frequency. Exactly. Yes, I believe God is perfect. I'm not sure. I mean, if he's perfect, does he not learn? Does he not become stronger and mightier than before? I don't think we could ever know that. That's what I believe, and I respect what you believe in. When I hear higher spirit through e.v.p, it sounds like a beautiful symphony of magnificent chords that make encouraging statements. They do. These would probably be more like angels, Mary, because I when I have angels around, they seem to sort of talk in parables. Some of the things that they say, I'm sort of, I must admit, there was one, what was it? There was the one that said, let me see if I can bring it up. Hang on, where's my, here. I will just go to, in a minute. I'll see if I can play it. I'll show you the just trying to show you this window that I'm on. Is that it? Yeah. Okay, so I have this account and it's with Insta Audio. I've got a lot of things in there. So a lot of the, I don't know whether you heard this the other night. It was like, I can't remember what time it was. I've got it down here. At 2:05, I'm awoken to a male spirit yelling out, "They love me." I hit the record on my iPhone to record how loud he is. Nice to be loved. I'll let you have a listen to this. But that one with the angels, where is it? I'll try and, I think, yes, this one. The angel. This was at the office, actually. And listen, look at the way that they've said this. You'll hear it in a minute. Karen, set your peace, and the angels will build peace inside you. That's what they say. I didn't put the U on the end, but you'll hear. Where is it? Now, isn't that a weird expression? But that's what they said. You know, Karen, set your peace, and the angels will build peace inside you. So that was, to me, it's like talking in parable. So we go back to our chat room. They do talk really, really different. Thank you so much, Nurse Calls. She says, I have to go. Have a great day, everyone. Catch you all in the next live stream. Sending you all positive energy. Bye, Karen. Thank you so much for being a part of this chat room. You've contributed such beautiful information there about what you do, and I would really love to, if I could, possibly one day get you on a live stream. So that sounds nice. Get you on a live stream. I'll just get you on a live stream. So we can actually talk more about your experiences, perhaps, if you're interested. I would love that. If you could email my admin, either Naomi or Susanna, you just email admin@thehighpriestessstudio.com, and they'll be able to give you the details, or they'll be able to take your email so I can send you the link, because I really think this would be a great topic to discuss or carry on in a like part 2 kind of thing. Marley Paranormal. Wow, that sure hit home. So it's been, which is, it goes up here. We've got, when I hear, yeah, high spirit, blah, 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 magnificent chords that make encouraging statements, unpronounceable names. I was raised Roman Catholic, so I truly do believe in that one true, undeniable parent, but I don't think we should forget the aspect that he has a divine family. Agreed. Agreed. Processing the energy of our feelings of loss, love, and life is essential. Letting go of guilt, pain raises our mortal frequency like a spinning wheel at the speed of light. This is beautiful, Mary. Beautiful sayings. And exactly. Can you imagine how different things would be if that time came? This is probably why, like, there are some cultures out there, when you think about it, that they deal with death in such a more accepting way, if you want to put it that way. I really think that, you know, it's incredible when we've got spirit. I don't know, they want so much to communicate with us. They want to help us so much, and I think that through every single person taking an interest in the paranormal, only seek the truth, only seek to share the truth. And this may also be helping those dealing with loss in some way, because I really believe that, you know, there's a reason that people get into this, I guess, you know, and it's because they want to understand the process. They want to understand how life can go on and what the purpose here is. So, you know, everyone in the paranormal field, or in the, you know, field of communication, should all try to, you know, bring about a awareness, or a way of reaching out to others, so that we all connect. We all are seen as a part of this big picture. You know, there is a bigger picture at the end. And just think, all of our videos in some way, maybe not now, but maybe years down the track, probably even after I'm gone, if anyone's watching this, it will probably be very helpful for them to know, that this is okay to talk about. It's not a bad subject. It's a great subject, because it's something we have to face. So, you know, that's how I look at it. And maybe in some way, even if you can bring it up in topics or discussions on your channels, get it out there. Get that flow, so that, you know, even when it comes to your time, and my time, our families and our loved ones can look back and say, look how accepting they were of this. Look how they've reflected over things, and they've come to the realization that, you know, this is something that, you know, we all go through. We all experience different things. We all have different feelings. We all have different emotions. We different outlooks. But as I was saying before, those in other countries who are more accepted for this, and they talk with their loved ones, and they talk with you know, family, and they prepare this grand event. You know, we have wakes and stuff like that, but having this grand event while the person's alive, so that you can celebrate them. You know, imagine how that would be. I think I would like to have a party before I go, so I can be there and be a part of it, even if I'm just there watching and seeing things going on. To see everyone happy, to see everyone smiling, that's what's important. And you can't not want that for your loved ones, to see them happy. But it'll help them deal with things a little better too. That's how I look at it. Just having a look at a few more. Fear is learnt. Mary Callahan. You have some beautiful sayings here. So she's got, fear is learned. It's how parents managed and controlled their children using God as a punishment. Yes. Yes. They do. During war and plague, so many orphan children left to the winds of wherever, like a lost generation. Are you stealing these sayings? You're so good. But they are. I agree, Marley Paranormal. He wrote beautiful words, Mary. She has got some beautiful words. You should write a book, my dear. Okay. So quite a lot of people have had to go because it's been a very long live stream. But I'm sorry that you've got scratchy noise. Oh, bless your heart. Just got scratchy here. Oh dear. Well, thank you for joining the live stream and staying with me. And I actually had, a really good time. Surprisingly enough. Sitting here talking to myself. But I'm really glad that you all joined in. Like I said, if that nurses calls can get in touch with us and let my staff know, I would love to have you on one of my live streams with Order, perhaps next week or the week after, depending on what comes first. Well, obviously next week does, but you know what I mean. So that way we can talk about this a little further and probably take it into a level of experiences. So those who have been in the nursing trade. Let me just turn it down a bit, perhaps might help. Those that have been or are in the nursing trade who have, is that better? Just turned it down a little. Those of you in the nursing trade or those watching who may be in the nursing trade, do let us know if you would be interested in talking about like the experiences of people in those final hours. Nurses calling or nurses calls. She wrote a very beautiful part where she said that she tells the person who is dying, who looks fearful, I'm here, everything's going to be okay, and you're not alone and stuff like that. And I think that's really, really beautiful and so respectful. So I think that's lovely. Mary's got the sad truth that government has no business interfering with spirituality. I don't know what that's about. I missed the first half. I work nights. Looks like I missed a beautiful live stream. Well, you can always replay it. That's a good thing about YouTube. It stores it. Happy days, happy birthday, happiness always. Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Happy, happy, happy. Wagner. So, well, I think I might wrap it up here, but there's something for everybody to possibly talk about in your live streams or your videos. Talk about, bringing more awareness, not so much also to spirit, but our mortality as humans. We're going to go. That's the reality. We're going to go someday. And if we can probably make it that little much, or that much easier, I should say, for somebody going through this now, giving them some breathing space of like, there is an afterlife. We've got proof of it. the proof that we're allowed to have. That is, we might not have the best of proof, but we come pretty close to the best of proof. And it's been a while actually since I've uploaded anything, because I've just been so busy. So I'm going to have to do a upload of that particular video from the other night. So I'll try and put that in, you know, maybe over the weekend, depending. I do get really busy. So, but anyway, thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining me. And I really do hope that this has helped you. I really hope it sinks in. I hope it gives you something to converse about with those that are still with you. And if you're dealing with loss, my heart goes out to you, and I know what loss is like. I've lost both parents and my grandparents as well, and it's not easy, even for someone who does see them, even in spirit. But you know that physical body's just not here anymore. It's not the same. You know, it will never be the same until you're on the other side with them. But anyway, have a lovely weekend, and let me have a look. When is... okay, so next Friday is the 22nd. So we'll be doing the Christmas edition pretty much. Finalizing the Christmas wrappings and so on. But I really do hope you got a lot out of this. So have a great weekend, everyone. I'm going to turn off the broadcast now. But don't forget, if you have any nursing skills and you're in that field and would be happy to talk about it, let me know, and hopefully we can have you on a live stream. Take care.